You're watching redicetv book first.
And welcome back. There we are. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you for joining us here today. I'm Henrik. Hope you're all doing well. Thank you for watching us live. Rumble, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. We also got to redicetv and redicemembers.com. So today we're going to talk a bit about identity, ethnic identity, Christianity, the role of religion, race versus religion, folk versus faith. What has happened under Christianity? Has it aided? Has it abetted? Has it impaired? Has it restricted our ethnic consciousness overall? Especially as white people, obviously, that's our interest here. But regardless, it's going to be a good show, I think. We have Adam Green back on the show. Hasn't been here in a while. Adam, how are you doing? Good to see you again.
I'm doing great. Good to see you. Good to be back. Looking forward to the conversation.
Indeed. Exactly. Yeah, thank you for joining us. So, I kind of want to, we have new people tuning in all the time, right? But before we get into kind of the meat of the thing, I wanted to kind of go through how you ended up, where you are now and what you're talking about now. Because first, you were an InfoWars listener, right? Alex Jones, right? Do you remember when you started listening to Alex Jones?
I think it was like 2008, 2009. Obama Deception was the first thing I ever saw from Alex Jones.
Okay. So that's a while ago, obviously. A lot of us started listening to that, obviously, right? Mm-hmm. And then, of course, you realized he wasn't going where you needed to go in order to actually understand why things are the way they are in the world, essentially. Primarily with Zionism, obviously, Israeli interest, Israeli lobby, all that kind of stuff, right? And then you kind of evolved that into looking deeper, not only at Zionism as a political thing, but then it was like the religion, right? Judaism. What does this mean? What is these rabbis talking about? Jones is not talking about this. What is happening? And then that has evolved into looking deeper into the Abrahamic matrix, as some people have called it, right? All of the religions, as for being replaced by Islam in many European countries, and of course in these countries, it's primarily Hispanic, now it's like Indians, but Hispanics too, obviously, right? Catholics actually coming in for the most part from Mexico and stuff like that. Looking at Christianity as well, and looking at that and connecting that to the prior topics, because I think some people, when they just see or come across your work today, they might not know that you've done that trajectory and why you talk about the kind of things that you talk about today. Would that be a fair assessment kind of the trajectory, would you say?
Pretty much, yeah. Before I discovered Alex Jones, I was raised Christian, and then, I'm getting to be a little bit older into my teenage years and in 20s, and YouTube came around, and I'm like reading about atheism and evolution and how Christianity is fake and a cult and a lie, and then I discovered kind of the conspiracy internet world of like Zeitgeist and Federal Reserve and fluoride in the water and Alex Jones stuff, 9/11 stuff, and then obviously the Zionist power stuff's been there all along. People have been talking about it for a long time. So
how long have you been talking about that? What do you say? What is that?
What?
8, 9, 10 years? You talk about like Zionism?
Well, I started No More News in 2014.
14, yeah.
But
okay.
Didn't really start posting a ton of videos until like 2016-ish, maybe. And so, about that long, 10 years.
There you go. Okay. Yeah. So
one of my first videos I ever posted was Glenn Beck's Zionist Agenda, which ultimately got banned on YouTube. And it was him getting the Defender of Zion award from Netanyahu and saying he's a proud Zionist.
Nice. And surely that wasn't like, one of the only few, but it was still kind of in the early days. Now it's like just permeating everything. You're like, not only with the award ceremonies, but the blatant way the politicians are out talking about this. And you're seeing this like massive rift between, I think, most people generally, and then like the political Zionist class that are like just going overboard with it. And they're really, if they genuinely were like kind of concerned of like the support for Israel or whatnot, they're not doing it right. They don't know how to do this whatsoever. I think most people, for the most part, again, there's exceptions, right? But unless you're paid $7,000 per post from Israel or something like that, a lot of people have now turned against Israel. A lot of more people are aware of it today, obviously, right, than they were 10 years ago, 5 years ago even.
Yeah. 10 years ago on YouTube, it's funny. YouTube was a totally different thing. It was like people would say, "Oh, that's just a YouTube video," or it was like known for conspiracies. Now all that stuff has been completely banned for like the last 5 years, but it's ubiquitous now in the last couple of years since October 7th and Elon buying X. You know, I go on Instagram or TikTok, and all of the most popular videos are stuff critical of Israel or Jews, but I find so much of it as, like, I call it kosher anti-Semitism. It's a kosher disinfo theories, all centered around Christianity dominating the monopolizing, like, the opposition to Jews and Judaism and Zionism and all those things, right? So everything's within their framework, where it's like they're satanic, or they need to believe in Jesus, they killed Jesus, they killed God, or all like religious based stuff. And I feel like that's almost being allowed to flourish right now. And that's what's popular. That's what all the rhetoric of all the big influencers, the Abrahamic gatekeeper echo chamber, where the criticisms are wrong, they're discrediting, they're easily disprovable, and it turns the Jews into the victims and like discredits the criticism. Like Candace Owens yesterday, for example, was like, it's the Frankists and it's Satanists that have infiltrated all the Abrahamic religions. And it's like, no, it's just the religions, Messianism, the Torah, the God of Israel. So I find the whole dialectic of like the Great Awakening and the noticing to be like within the Judeo paradigm and like the kosher Jewish matrix.
You're saying it's another trap, and it's not really a threat to the establishment, right?
Right, because the opposition is mad about who the Messiah is. They still worship the God of Israel. They affirm that the Jews were ever chosen. They want all, like the Jews' original goal, they want all of the Goyim to bow down to the Jewish Messiah, the Davidic dictator over the world one day. So how is that really opposition when they affirm all of those things and call themselves spiritual Jews? You're not against Israel if you want to be the new Israel. You're not opposing Jews if also like the whole Revelation 3:9 synagogue of Satan, like they say they're Jews, but they're not. They're fake Jews. So it's not really Jews and Judaism that's a problem. It's only the Talmud and these Khazari European imposters. Like that's total controlled opposition talking points people have been doing for decades. And what has it resulted in? More power for Zionist interests than ever, possibly?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the Khazarian thing. I mean, that's been raging for many, many years. And I don't think people understand the backdrop to that, why Arthur Kessler actually kind of invented that, right? His main concern was anti-Semitism, as far as I understand it. And it was like this deflection. I mean, what's the latest spin? It's like, no, they're not really Jews. They're Eastern Europeans. That's one thing I've heard as well, right? It's like, yeah. Well, I know they settled in there, but even like, yes, they had more Eastern European sounding names because they were trying to fit in there. But then when they moved to Israel, yeah, they changed the names again. But you think they had those Eastern European sounding names when they actually showed up in Eastern Europe first? Of course not. Then it was something else. That's just what they do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
I remember you did a video a long time ago with author of Culture of Critique.
Kevin McDonald. Yeah,
Kevin McDonald.
Yeah.
You had him on for a video debunking Khazarian theory and showing how much of a distraction it is and missing the mark of like what's actually going on.
Yeah, definitely. Guys, I'll get to chat. I see the super chats come up. I'll read them later because I don't want to interrupt. It's hard to do when you do interviews because you kind of get interrupted. But thank you. We appreciate your support, guys. We'll get to those as well. So what do you make of, because you cover this too. I saw this. I've checked in on quite a few of your recent streams, and it's very, very good stuff coming out that you're covering, right? I mean, Jones is one of your titles, one of the videos here, right? Jones covers Edom, right? He's addressing rabbis. Now, are they being painted into a corner? I can't help to feel that a lot of this has also been like in response. I've always kind of felt this, even the same with like white identity of sorts, right? There's people that pick it up to kind of be the spokespersons for it, so that if there is other people out there that might not be aware of this, and these are people that are, for the most part, not always, of course, but they're like maybe still on YouTube or they're big on TikTok or something like that. They're still kind of allowed on those platforms, but it's this idea like, we can't let this end up in the hands of the wrong people, because then it will actually go somewhere where we don't want it to go. At the same time, the other part of me is like, well, they're kind of on the defensive. Like we've kind of, not you and me personally, but like the collective effort, I guess, have been to like push this so hard that they're forced to address these issues now, which they just wouldn't even do five years ago. What do you think is happening there with the
it's
dynamic?
trendy and it's popular now. So if you don't, jump on the wave and ride this new wave of noticing, right, you're going to be, sticking out like a sore thumb even more than he always has in the past. So yeah, finally he starts talking about the rabbi videos wanting to destroy Edom, which I know you've been sharing the rabbi compilations and understanding this and talking about on your show for years as well. And he claims he's known about it for 20 years. He mentioned Tex Mars. He heard about it from Tex Mars.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe so, but only now that Netanyahu says that he's wants to win the next war against Rome, and then I immediately heard that and I said, oh shit, he says America is Rome when he was with Pompeo, and I went searching to find that clip that's everybody sharing right now. But yeah, so now that's the big story, he's going to act like he's always known about it and he's going to cover it. But even in his coverage, he's falling right into the dichotomy of Edom and Jerusalem and Jacob and Esau, because he's like, and you killed Jesus and you're chosen by God, but you didn't follow the commandments right. And so that it literally is like the Esau role of Esau hates Jacob. Yeah, there it is.
Yep, there is.
So, and then Jones is like, he's known about this for 20 years and he's only now going to start screaming about it and yelling about it. Where were any of these rabbi clips for the last 20 years? Because we've been pumping out these compilations all over the internet.
Yeah.
They've been mirrored everywhere. So many, and Jones is like, you guys know people watch these and put these out here. But also he's spinning it that Trump is going to save Edom. And it's like, dude, he's their guy. That's like, if they have their way, he's going to destroy Edom. So not getting it at all.
Interesting. Yeah, it's fascinating. I'll tell you, the last just 2-3 years, the media landscape, I mean, it's kind of just the media now. I don't even bother calling it alternative media. It's the media now, right? Kind of thing. Which not necessarily means a good thing either, by the way. But still, it is what it is, right? It's just, it's altered and changed so drastically, and it's changing faster than ever before, right? New trends, new Spurg shit's thrown up, new deflections. It's just it's mass information war on every front, and it's not maybe that's hard to keep up with it, but it's just so much noise, right? There's so much noise right now.
Yes, most people are not very smart. And there's a lot of everybody has access to internet. So there are tons of kosher, kooky conspiracies out there that are muddying the waters, and we're being overrun by the kooks. And the algorithms kind of boost the sensational, kooky, disinfo stuff way more than the hard truths. And especially with the Christians and the Muslims, they're gatekeeping the whole foundation of Jews and their identity from Judaism and the Torah. They refuse to even condemn the Torah, and they affirm that they were ever chosen and that their God is the God of the universe and that their prophecies are real. You've already lost if you're doing that. If you're affirming it and then advancing their whole goal of Judaism is their Messiah rules the world one day. And then what is the goal of these Christians? Every knee will bow. Christ is king. It's the same exact agenda. I
think you've covered Candace Owens, because she's talked about this too. I forget the clip now, but it's a few months ago of I forget what the framing was, but it was something to the effect of you're denouncing, Jews, or well, what are you talking about? And it's just she said something, John, paraphrasing, it's impossible for me to do that, right? As a Christian, mm-hmm. I read the Torah and these people are sacred to me, kind of thing. I'm not sure if she's doing a Black Hebrew Israelite kind of thing or something weaved into that. But regardless, it is an interesting dynamic for sure. Right, where all of a sudden you have a situation where white people and Europeans who have turned to Christianity have a much harder time throwing this off themselves than they would if they hadn't been Christian, right? So this is a deep historical topic. It's deeply woven into our identity. It's deeply woven into people's traditions. And then at the same time, my argument has always kind of been, I do firmly still believe, though, that if you compare early Christianity when it was a radical Jewish sect, it was they called it the New Way basically at the time. You had all these competing Jewish sects. It was the Zadokites, it was the Zealots, it was the Masoretes or something, and then this New Way, right? They showed up.
Essenes, Nazarenes, Ebionites,
exactly. Yep.
Therapeutai. There was a bunch of groups like that.
Bunch of different groups, and of course the New Wave or the early Jewish Christians were very successful, and it was very many different reasons for that. But regardless, that version of Christianity is very different, I think, also than what we have become associating with Christianity in Europe today. I still believe that Europeans probably influenced Christianity, if you compare to that early version, than Christianity influenced Europeans. Like many traditions, holidays, right? It was baked in. It was sold to Europeans as like, it's kind of like what you do already, right? It was like ecumenical councils. It was reworked, and maybe they took that saint and kind of placed it on top of like a pagan existing holiday as a way to kind of get us to swallow that, essentially, right? But would you agree with that? Do you think Europeans have influenced Christianity more than Christianity has influenced us?
No, and I'd say a lot of like the first syncretizing of Hellenism and Judaism was with the Jew Philo and Jewish Christians. So already it was becoming like paganized and Greco-Roman influenced with the Jews, because that was like the milieu that they were in. They were being influenced by it. But yeah, certainly, whether they intended or not, like the way that all the pagan elements have been incorporated into Christianity, I think that served a purpose mostly just to more easily convert the Gentile world with this, replacing their pagan gods with the Jewish Messiah that's overlaid on top of their gods. So it's more easily for them to convert.
Would you say, I mean, it's interesting to talk about like kind of the political dynamic of that time, because a lot of people aren't thinking about that too much, right? You've had the destruction of the Second Temple. They're under the thumb of Rome. All the shit has happened with, Hadrian, and they're in trouble, right? Kind of around this period. They're close to like being, competed out of existence. Greece or Greco, it's a Greco-Roman tradition, but Greece and Greek religion was dominating at that time, right? Mm-hmm. And I think also that's why many elements was incorporated of like a rising and dying god. It's kind of like it is kind of a solar figure. It's like, it's pagan elements that they basically took or incorporated to make it a competing yet a synthetic version of those existing pagan religions, because it was a political thing to try to, I think, primarily survive. And I'm still kind of on the fence, or like I can't figure this out yet. Either they did it because they were trying to get themselves to actually change, or themselves to alter their behavior, right? So you can talk about certain things of like what happened in the temple, right? And throwing over the money changers. You have to turn the other cheek. This idea of like constant revenge, essentially, right? Or trying to get it. Like, if you continue to live like this, in that part of the world, you're surrounded by Rome, Egypt is there, Assyria, all the, many other powerful kingdoms are still there. Granted, it's not the Bronze Age anymore, right? But they're still powerful enough to be a threat. Like, if you continue like this, you will die. You will be exterminated, essentially. Or if it was this, like, let's sell it, let's do a synthetic version of it and let's sell it to the Gentiles kind of thing. And I'm not sure. Maybe it started as one thing, but then it turned into another thing, and it was like, well, it is what it is now. Let's kind of run with it and use it or whatever. We're not in the heads of these people, so it's impossible to know. But I'm sure you're thinking about these ideas too. What's your sense of it? Yeah,
knowing if they did it intentionally is like speculative. I don't know of any. I mean, I have a perfect rabbi clip if you want to play for this topic, actually, where he talks about that he thinks this is what happened. If you want to, it's the link that says Rabbi 1, Jesus, take it away.
This one here. Okay, let's play this. Okay. Oh yeah, I think I've seen this one part of it. This is this one here, right?
Now, again, don't get the wrong idea. We believe that Islam and Christianity, despite damage done to us, are still bringing humility in general, much closer to God. At least it's, okay, I'm not going to worship this, I'm going to worship that. So let's centralize and worship one pagan god, and then we could take that away. You see? So instead of having 20 of them, you have 1 or 3 or however many. So all's well that ends well. In the end, we will all see clearly, of course, for the knowledge of Hashem will fill the world, and finally there will be no need for their missionaries. This we could also see in the book of Zechariah. Now, again, don't get the wrong idea. We believe...
Okay, circles around there. Okay.
Yeah. So
clarify this part of it. Why should we listen to a rabbi? He's going to lie anyway. Isn't that the response sometimes? Like when it's convenient, then they lie. When it's not convenient, then they tell the truth. Do I'm saying you can always kind of flip, right?
It's true that the rabbis believe that, and it's true that that's what happened, that Jesus conquered the pagan gods. Christians celebrate it. The rabbis celebrate it, and then the Christians celebrate conquering the pagan gods. There's another good clip of that, actually, if you want to do Khan, Greek gods done.
Khan, he's what a beauty that guy is, isn't he?
A couple links up,
yeah. Let's play this one. I think I've seen this one before.
You have Greece. What the Greeks did is they tried to wipe out the Jewish faith. They tried to replace the biblical faith with Greek faith, Zeus and all. So what did God do? He replaced the Greek faith with the biblical faith. The Greeks ended up converting to Christianity and accepted the God of Israel, and the Greek gods were gone. And actually, he used the Greek language and the Greek culture to spread the gospel. Rome took Israel and they shattered it. They spread the Jewish people all across the world, shattered it. What did God do with Rome? Rome fell, and the pieces of Rome have been scattered all over the world. You got
nice. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, that's what it is, right? It's even that. So you played it, right? The Roseanne Barr, she's kind of loony, but I think she's still a broken clock, I guess. But she's still kind of right in the sense that it's like they need to worship the God of Abraham. That's what she said. We do not, like they can't worship. Maybe she didn't say it that way, but it was like not some Roman god, right? Kind of thing. That was the big competition at the time. People have to understand the politics of it at the same time, right? Like not only ideology and like power ultimately, but politics and a sense of survival. Because much of stories, I think, are copied, right? Like the Jewish people that were enslaved in Babylonia, in Assyria, Egypt, obviously, right? And they picked up things everywhere, essentially. Yeah. And they composite, like too. Make a version. Was that Adam? Say it again.
The Torah, especially the Old Testament and Torah, it's just
right. Yeah.
It's just about as fake as the New Testament is.
And they make a new kind of version of that, and kind of out of that comes this like, here's an even more powerful religion. Now, again, you can argue, well, why did it take over? How was it done? What was the power mechanism and dynamic behind it? But right now, from our vantage point, well, it is what it is. And if you look back at it historically and look at it from that point of view, which most people don't, they don't see it as like a mechanism for power and control and ultimately, I think, subversion as well. I think they've always been more concerned with going after paganism, right, and eradicating that so that we will fall in a position where we link with their, or that our access to God is through them, right? With them as the authority and them as kind of our parents, so to speak. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And the rabbis all over, like Rabbi Shmuley, celebrating that the pagan gods were conquered by Jesus. They celebrate the Muslims conquering Greek temples all the time. And then Christians online, the E-Crusaders, are also going to celebrate the same thing. And it's so funny because like the Ben Shapiros and the Zionists fight with like the MAGA versus America First schism that's happening right now.
Yeah,
the Zionists are calling like the Christians neo-pagans now.
I saw that. It's everyone's blaming each other as a pagan. It's hilarious to kind of watch that spiraling.
Yeah. Remember, Josh Hammer did it as well with the things was going down. He was like, yeah, it's the neo-pagan, anti-biblical right. It's like, if only it was that. No, they want to be the true Jews and the true Israel and everybody to worship the Jewish Messiah.
But of course, so again, historically here, right? What's interesting about this is that the Jewish God is also a pagan god. It was one of many gods, right, in that part of the world at that time. Yahweh, he had a female consort, Ashura. There's some early rock carvings, and it looked like any kind of Bronze Age worship, of any god at that point in time, essentially, right? And so the root, no matter what you try to do or how to weasel your way out of it, right? If it's a henotheistic religion, but they chose one as their supreme god out of a pantheon of older pagan gods, then all of it is paganism, I guess, right? It doesn't matter. Yeah. I mean, it's turned into something else. I get that too, but I'm just saying from what we can
now,
deduce.
paganism just means anything that's not Jewish. Any religions that's not Jewish.
It seems like it, basically. Yeah.
The only problem Jews have with Christianity is that it has elements of paganism too. That's the funny thing. And then
do they talk about that
together? What they actually fear.
So, do you think that's part of the rejection? I mean, there are Messianic Jews, obviously, we should mention that, but they're very far and few between, as far as I know. But do you think that's part of the rejection? Either A, they know that it's kind of synthetic of sorts, or that the somehow is kind of part of the creation of it, or two, they recognize that at least the current form of Christianity has many pagan elements still weaved into it. Which one do you think it is?
Yeah. The only objection they really have to Christianity, besides blaming Jews for killing God, is the idolatry. That's some rabbis think that Christianity is idolatry because the Trinity, because it says that a man is God, and there's rules in Judaism in the Torah that speaks against that. So yes, they do see it as idolatrous and pagan because of that. Also because of the blood drinking, because there's a prohibition against drinking blood, and Christianity drinks the blood of Jesus. So those are the pagan elements that rabbis object to, and that it acts as a deterrent. That it makes it a deterrent where it's like an antithetical religion to Judaism, so they stay away from it. And there's a Deuteronomy 13. There's a scripture that is cited in the New Testament. I think it's New Testament about Jesus. And it says, like, there's a false prophet that tells you to not follow the laws and like the holidays, I think it is. And they liken that to Jesus. They go, we were warned about Jesus in that Deuteronomy 13 verse.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. All right. So obviously a lot to dig into and kind of go through here, right? But what about the argument that, well, Christians used to be antithetical to Jews, or like medieval Europe, they were kind of going after Jews, right? It's not until there's a reform of the Vatican, obviously that's later, that's like 1960s essentially, Vatican II and all that stuff, right? But it's kind of like the problem is just kind of when the Schofield Bible shows up and the new version of that Christianity comes out to that. Tell us a bit about what you found in terms of like shooting that down, or like what was the relationship with Christians and Jews historically, as far as you know?
Yeah, like a twin rivalry, like a schism between Jewish sects fighting over who the Messiah is. That's how it's been traditionally. But yet they're intertwined, and who got the raw end of the deal? The pagan world or Judaism with the last 1700 years of Christianity? Because the pagan gods and paganism, how many more pagans were killed in the last 1700 years because of Christianity, or Jews were killed? It's not the number's not even close. Paganism has been largely eradicated. Judaism, it was protected. They ensured the survival of Judaism because they have to be around at the end time, and they're supposed to be witness, and they created laws protecting them. While like the Theodosian Code, when Rome adopted Christianity a few decades later, paganism was outlawed by punishment of death, while Judaism was protected and actually had special
I remember seeing something. I'll see if I can pull it up here, but I remember seeing that as well, that there were certain, privileges, I guess, that they were granted, right?
Yeah.
I was even looking
through
some
discrimination, but discrimination that simultaneously almost like fit within Judaism, like to keep a barrier and a separation between Jews and Gentiles even.
Well, again, this kind of gets to the heart of the ethnic question a little bit as well, because look at, for example, then the Spanish Inquisition period, let's say, or even the preceding point up to that. I was going through a few of them, and apparently there's quite a few like conquistadors and even inquisitors at that time that were actually Jews, and some were known, right? There were conversos, or some call them crypto. I think there's two, technically that's two different brackets, right? Some people openly said, no, it's fine. I'm a Christian. I'm on your side. I'll convert, type of thing, right? And some were like, just went underground, right? Crypto conversion, no one knew, kind of thing. But many of them were apparently quite known, which is like, I was looking through it the other day. I was like, how about that? Interesting. Because it was like this idea that the ethnic then consciousness of sorts in European is eroded with a more universalist view that like it's fine just as long as you convert, kind of thing. And if you look then at the period of Spain leading up to, again, Spanish had fought for 700 years, right, to basically get the country back after Jews originally back in the 700s or so opened the gates to Toledo and many of these other, cityscapes. It was mainly Goths that had settled or at least built some of those city-states at the time. It takes them about 700 years to get the country back. And then by the time they do that, it's like this, okay, they kicked out Jews, but only those that didn't convert, right, kind of thing. And the question is like, okay, but now you've eroded the idea of an ethnic component to this at the same time. And you could argue then that over time, that also kind of helps to undermine what Spain has become. Now we're talking about a long period of time, so it doesn't all happen at once, obviously, but I'm saying outdrawn like that on a long time scale enough, you realize that it's like they can have Jews, an ethnic identity, maintain that, and have a ruthless self-interest when it comes to their own race, their own people. But for Europeans, this has become this kind of thing. We're like, well, it's kind of universal, and it doesn't really matter what race you are as long as you convert, you're fine. And we've lost that sense of identity, I feel. What's your view on that? And what do you think? Is there any aspect inside of that where people can still cling on to an ethnic identity, or is that just is that just heresy, right?
It's heresy, and the Christian establishment is going to fight you at every turn and stand in your way and throw you out of the church and call you a satanic heretic. And that is what happens. Some Christian e-crusader on the internet is saying racist stuff. If they tried that in their churches, they'd be thrown out and censured and condemned. And yes, it's replaced everybody's ethnic tribal identities, and along with their traditions and their myths and their gods, into universal Jewish Messiah worship. That's what Christianity and Judaism is in a nutshell, is universal, the whole world, globalism. Jewish Messiah globalism is what Christianity and Islam and Judaism ultimately are. And it's replaced European and everybody's identities with becoming, their identity is to be spiritual Jews and to be sheep following the Jewish shepherd. And it's not. Oh, you mentioned the Schofield Bible too. Everybody likes to scapegoat and blame.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry,
I
forgot that part of it. Yeah, but what do you make of that? Like, because honest question, really. Then, right? If here's the message, here's God's revelation, right, kind of thing. Or I think you phrased it like this too. I think you were talking about it or something similar, and it kind of dawned on me as like that. Did the Schofield Bible trick God? Or God's message, I guess, right? Was that what happened, or how do we explain that? I guess you see what I'm saying. Is that a
no? So Jesus came to earth, God's ultimate plan: send Jesus to earth, have His chosen people reject Him, open up salvation, goes to the Gentiles. But then, God created Satan too, and he's in charge of earth, and he's corrupting everything. So Jesus is just up in heaven, looking down from a cloud, like, no, Schofield, the Rothschilds rewrote the Bible, which is a lie. It's Schofield Bible. If your Bible is able to be, and your religion is able to be subverted by a couple footnotes, then maybe you had problems to begin with. If it becomes completely subverted and kosher just because of a couple reference notes, then it had issues. It had problems to begin with, and it was already Jewish. And they cope so much. People act like, oh, the Bible before Schofield never said Jesus was Jewish. Yeah, it does. Definitely does. That's a lie. And to think you can't overcome just a couple footnotes, and that God's ultimate plan, all it takes is like a different interpretation, and it's all completely corrupted, then maybe it wasn't, is he incompetent? Did he allow this to happen? He couldn't have more clearly written his message so something like Christian Zionism wouldn't happen. So, Cope will be, they're not real Christians. Christian Zionists aren't real Christians, but there is no real Christian. And they're the ones with all the real power, and their agenda is very real and being moved forward. And calling them the no true Scotsman of not real Christians just isn't cutting it, and ultimately like running cover for what's going on. And the cope about one more thing. Yeah. There's no such thing as Judeo-Christian values, right? They'll really cope on that. It is a fact that Christianity was started by all Jews. It's worshiping the Jewish Messiah. It affirms the Jewish Old Testament. They call themselves spiritual Jews. They're worshiping King David, who is the king of Judah. It's an offshoot Judaism for Gentiles, Noahide laws for the world. It's Jewish. It is Judeo-Christian. Stop coping and pretending like it didn't come from Jews.
Yeah, there's a number of things here in terms of the ethnicity, right, or like how we've lost that, and of course part of that is the message of charity, also obviously within the church, right? Has it been a net negative or net positive? That's where I'm trying to look at it from as well.
Charity can be good, and charity was also in pagan
fine
traditions as well, right?
No, of course, absolutely. But when it's now, look, the church has or any religion, really, any tradition, right? As long as it's old enough, have kind of it's valid because it's in the distant past, right? That makes it more fun, like kind of, it's harder to understand it. There's an aura of mystique around it, right? And with that, you kind of grant that comes with almost not authority, but like credibility or appeal almost of sorts, right? It's more harder to figure out. If some of these things would happen today, I think it would be many more people would be like, "What the hell is this?" Kind of thing, right? But regardless, it is what it is. So they have a little bit of a tradition, and it's also this idea then that the tradition that's weaved into it happens to it's the advantage that it was like it's 2,000 years ago or 1,500 years ago, when obviously there was more traditional time as well. But what has happened now is then it's always reinterpreted. There's a new spin on it. We've seen most of the established denominations and churches go down kind of a quote unquote, I hate to use the word, but like a woke path, right? It's like, no, actually open borders is good. Actually, you should sit down with the trannies and the gays, and Lutherans do this, Episcopals do this, the Pope does this, and all that kind of stuff. There was a message from the U.S. bishops recently, a special message on immigration out of some plenary session they had in Baltimore, and it was just like this. It's inhumane, and keep in mind too now when we talk about this, they're coming down on Trump's deportation of illegals that have also, in addition, committed crimes, right? That's apparently what ICE is doing, right? Kind of thing. And it's this weird thing when you look at it that like, no, they're brown, therefore this is more important. We have to be charitable. This is inhumane, as I said. This is horrible. But like, what about the victims of those criminal migrants? Be that drugs, be that rape, be that murder, be that people that don't have licenses, drives into crowds, whatever the hell it is that's going on. There's no consideration for that whatsoever. And it's like this, well, we must help them because that's our mission. And you might have some Christians that say, well, I don't agree with that, yeah, fine, but your institutions are the ones pushing it, right? I mean, look at how many, we talk about Hayas all the time and many of these Jewish groups that are helping to bring in migrants. But I mean, the secondary to that, it's basically is a lot of Christian groups as well. I did a short list with just few of the top 5 Christians groups. I can rattle off a couple of them here too, and just the amount of money that they have, right? The United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, which is the article I just showed, right? They received about $129.6 million in 2023. That's the latest numbers we have. Most of that is government funding, by the way, so we're paying for it in order to, resettle refugees. You have the Episcopal Migration Ministries that have received over $50 million. That's $50 million annually apparently. Mostly federal government grants there as well. The Church World Service, $96 million, mostly in grants. The Global Refugee, which is the former Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Services, about $232 million. Holy shit, that's a lot of money, right? And then you have the Bethany Christian Services, about $77.3 million. And that's actively being used to demographically replace us. It looks like internally, if there's a, Christian versus pagan schism, and we talk about this a lot, kind of thing like, is there any way to bridge this? Is there any way to put race over religion or folk before faith, things like this, right? But it looks like those who are at least anti-immigrant critical, those who are also critical of replacement, they have their work cut out for them in terms of what they should be trying to reform themselves inside of their own institutions. Am I right?
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And I'm pretty sure like the vast majority of all the money is going through most of the NGOs, and most of the statistically is Christian groups doing all of this. And the sad thing is, what I notice is even the supposedly like most based in red pill Christians online that are like, know about the JQ, and they're not the kosher Christians, right? Like E. Michael Jones or Pastor Steven Anderson. You go see what their rhetoric is on the racial topic, and it's like astonishing. It's not even like neutral or like reasonable because of the Christianity. They're like active, like liberal, anti-racist, like to the extreme. Like they get off on virtue signaling about like, oh, it doesn't matter. Like if you're whatever, as long as you believe in Jesus, as long as the immigrants believe in Jesus, if if people on the other side of the world are you know, being persecuted or dying, like, they don't care. But if they're Christians in Nigeria, then it's our problem and we have to go save it. Like,
Well, we saw that recently, right? I mean,
right, that's
nothing
what I
has
said,
come of
yeah.
it so far, but it was at least rumors of like intervention in Nigeria because the Christians are being killed there, right? So,
Yeah.
shouldn't they have South Africa?
They were Muslims, would we go do it? No, but because they believe in Jesus, like the version of Jesus as Christians do, now it's like it's their problem also.
I think America should help Europe then kick out the Muslims or something. It's like, do that then or something, right? To go to the mother continent. There should be a relationship between America and Europe, but that's a different topic. You linked up this clip
We have
too.
funded a lot of Christians in Ukraine against Russia, but they're Christian too. Dude, it's crazy. I did a video. I don't know if you saw it, but America has their war propaganda videos, and they're doing prayers and praying to Jesus and bless us, Jesus. It's same with Ukraine propaganda videos, and same with Russia. All with, well, theirs had Muslims in it too in Russia, but well, that's all worshiping the same God, ready for a prophetic war against one another. And the rabbis are like sitting back, like in the middle of it, like, okay, we're gonna win. This is it.
Well, that important point too, and I'm glad you brought that up because I was thinking about it earlier. Obviously, we've seen intra-religious wars and different denominations then coming out of this after the conversion, that it never seems good enough. I was talking about an example of Alaric the First in our Western Warrior show, which was interesting because he managed to kind of bring together a wide range of different tribes, different tongues, or whatever, like to basically go sack Rome, right around 410. And it was this idea kind of unity, but they had converted to Arianism before that, right? Because it was kind of close enough. It was like it was Vulfias. They had the Silver Codex, the Silver Bible, and some of the Goths were kind of like convinced. It's like, well, it's kind of basically like Odin, Thor, and Freya, but we have like it's God, Mary, and Jesus, or to that effect. But that became a heretical tradition not too long after that. And then they were hunted, and then they were persecuted too. There's many denominations where they, and this is true for everything, I guess, to a certain extent, but still, just as a historical, to be historically accurate here in terms of the topic that we're talking about, that it's also not, unifying. How many white people have died over fighting over different versions, right? Like take the 30 Years' War in Europe, for example. Mm-hmm. Millions of Europeans that have died over this, and it never seems to be good enough. And in fact, it kind of bleeds into even up to today, whereas, as you mentioned before, now you have different versions of Christians calling each other pagans, as you said before, and they're fighting internally. And I think that's going to actually get worse as we move forward, as some try to kind of break away from, let's say, the Israel support, right? They're Christian, but they don't believe that that's Israel isn't legitimate, so it's like kind of an anti-Zionist Christian movement. And those schisms, I think, will be even worse as well. I can almost see like kind of a new denomination, maybe if it continues long enough, I guess, to come out of that. And then you have another intra-Christian war, essentially. What's your thoughts on that? Do you think it's going to continue in the years to come? Is it going to get worse and worse?
I don't think it'll ever end. It'll never end. It hasn't for 1,700 years. For 2,000 years, Christianity started as a schism within Judaism, and it just continues having schisms and causing division. Because when you have the belief in a monotheistic God, it's like that's the only way, and anybody that against you is satanic and evil and needs to be destroyed. So, like you mentioned earlier, the schism between Christians and pagans. That hasn't started online on the internet. That's been going on since Christianity first started. Right. And I think if you just read the scriptures, that seems to be the point of Jesus. In Matthew, it says, I came not to bring peace, send peace on earth. I came to, I butchered this so bad. It's KJV. That's why. Think not that I come to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword, and set man against his father and daughter against her mother. And there will be war in their own household. Right. And then in Luke, same thing. Did not come to bring peace, but the sword and division. So that's all it's done. The wars and the death between Christian Catholics and Protestants, arguing over minor differences in Jewish scriptures, over Jewish fairy tales, and then the Eastern Orthodox Catholic schism as well, Protestant Reformation, Mormonism fighting with Christians. There's pro-Israel Christians and anti-Israel Christians, and then there's all the Christians versus all the non-believers. And what does Christianity do to the brains of our own people and our own nations. Now, because they believe in Jesus, they think that anybody that doesn't believe in the magical Jewish superhero is an evil, satanic, demonic, like sinner that needs to be destroyed and is gonna bow and stuff. So it's caused endless division. We point out how divisive it is. We point out how subversive and fake it is and Jewish it is. And that's like the biggest cope that the e-crusaders will do, the Christians online, is you're causing division. That's what they say when they're losing the argument and they can't address the points that we're making. Jesus and Christianity is the one that instilled and injected this division, and we got to get rid of it.
Here was an interesting, I saw you played it on your show as well, but we could play it again for people because it's very interesting. It's a Norwegian pastor talking about his ancestors, and it's like this. Anyway, we'll play it and we'll talk about it after.
Mm-hmm. It's not like God delivered the Native Americans up to our forefathers because one was brown and one was white. This is like the simple-minded retardation that people have today, where it's just like white racism, took over everything. Here's the thing, even when we went out soul winning, Brother Cameron was told by Native American, get your white beep out of here. We don't need your white man's religion. We don't need your white man's Bible. Here's what's funny is, would everyone agree that I'm pretty white? I think I'm pretty white. I think I'm one of the whitest people ever, right? Well, guess what? My ancestors on both sides of my family were pagans. You want to know why? My great-great-grandfather moved to the United States from, guess where? Norway. And you want to know what the religion in Norway was? It was not Christianity. It was not worshiping Jesus Christ. It was worshiping Odin and Valhalla and all the pagan gods of Norway. So it's like, hey, my ancestors need also to convert to Christianity, and they were white. Christianity is not the white man's religion. So it's like, all of my ancestors were complete pagans. How foolish and prideful would it be for me to be like, oh, I just have to stick with my culture, and I'm going to grow out a beard and braid it and, have a weird Viking haircut and worship Odin because my ancestors did. Why do I have to go to hell just because my ancestors were stupid and foolish? And why can't people have enough loyalty to Jesus Christ that if our ancestors did wrong and worship the false god, we would say they're wrong. We need to repent and believe in Jesus Christ.
So how do we square that, right? Because that's obviously, is there a way for, maybe you've seen this, like if you're, because you've studied this more than I have, so I want to ask you about it. Do the prior ones that did not receive Jesus' message, is there a way for repentance for them, or are they in hell? It's kind of an interesting question, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm sure Christians would say different things,
Yeah.
depending on the Christian. But I mean, it seems pretty clear that if you don't believe in Jesus, that you would go to hell. And isn't so disgusting? His ancestors would be rolling in their graves and ashamed and crying that he would say these kind of things. And what does he really do? He's turned into like a golem for the Jews. He's like, oh, my evil ancestors are, were worshiping fallen angels and demons, and they were stupid and barbarian evil heathens because they didn't. And it's like, who told you they were fallen angels? Oh, Jews. The Jewish book, the Pharisee Paul told you that they were demons and that you needed to abandon them and worship the Jewish God. So he's just an anti-white spiritual Jew, this guy. And this is supposed to be one of the base JQ red pill guys that's a preacher at Pastor Steven Anderson's church.
Really?
I think so, yeah.
Really? Oh, shit.
Yep.
Okay. Well, there you go. Yeah, I mean, it's a...
Or he's in with that crew, at least. He's one of the Baptists with the crew. He might not be at the church. I don't want to get that wrong.
Gotcha. Just this idea that, like, looking down on your ancestors. I mean, this is a horrible, horrible way to view it, right? I mean, you'd think at least for the sake of fairness then, or balance, like, okay, fine, you have your religion today. And sure, you don't have to dress up as your ancestors, but you don't have to throw them under the bus either, right? Yeah. I mean, come on, you don't have to quote unquote LARP as your ancestors, whatever, But this is just horrible for like any type of ethnic consciousness, obviously, if that's what you really believe, that like these people are evil. They were worshiping, I mean, he didn't say demons, but I've seen some other people, right? They're worshiping demons and kind of thing. This was like, these were nature folk. That's where the term pagan comes from. Paganos. It's of the land, they were not civilized, right? Because they were still, farmers and out in the woods and doing other things, kind of thing. And it's funny when you talk about civilized, because obviously today there's such a thing as being over civilized as well. You can have under civilized, but then you can have over civilized as well. which is like, you need a balance. But anyway, the point is, these were just regular, normal people. And they were also operating and working on the conditions that were available to them at that time. How were they even supposed to know about these things before a time it didn't even happen? Or let's extend it for the sake of argument a little bit further. What if they were exposed to it and maybe just didn't believe it, or they didn't like it, or maybe they didn't even understand it, right? Let's say that they read and it's like, this doesn't make sense to me. I literally can't, like, all right, okay, whatever. Would you still be punished for that? Would you still be, going to hell if you didn't choose that path that was then offered to you? You see what I'm saying? I mean, I'm not sure we have to argue about this, but it's just an interesting thought experiment to try to get into the mind, I guess, of someone who's willing to throw his ancestors under the bus when, like, well, how should they even have known about some of these things, right?
And these Christians will say, like, oh, if you don't believe in Jesus, you're Jewish. There's nothing more Jewish than rejecting Jesus. While they call themselves spiritual Jews, Jesus is the king of the Jews. And the mind virus of Christianity has these guys calling us Jews when paganism is like means not Jewish. And he's up here seething, calling his ancestors stupid, and LARPing as a spiritual Jew and revering all of these Jewish ancestors as prophets and legitimizing them as the people of God and their covenant and wanting to be grafted into their covenant. It's just such a mental illness. It's sad to see. It's disgraceful to see what it's done to so many people's minds.
Let's talk about the Edom thing, right? Because we talked about it briefly earlier. Netanyahu did the reference to Rome. This is always in their mind kind of thing, right? And there's many different rabbis, and some of them say different things. It's maybe out of expedience as well, like when it's advantageous to say that the Palestinians are the Amalek, for example. Sure, let's use that type of thing, right? But sometimes there's also people that say that the Germans are Amalek, and since there's so many German descendants in America, they associate that essentially with the white man, right? The Western white man. That's, it used to be Christendom, but it's the white Western world essentially. That's either Amalek and or Edom, where supposedly the descendants
it's Esau
of
and
Esau.
Edom, but then like the most anti-Jewish aspects of it, they would consider Amalek.
Okay, all right.
Amalek is the grandson of Esau in their lore, so he's just the most anti-Jewish of Esau's ancestors.
And does that obviously go back to the Edomites that lived fairly close to them in like Syria at that point, I think, or something like that, right?
Yep.
So maybe they see anyway. So here's a clip that you shared that was kind of interesting too, where where a church invites a rabbi to basically talk or like preach about the destruction of Edom, which is pretty crazy. Let's play this clip. You can check it out.
The last exile is worst of all. It's called the exile of Edom. It is the toughest one of all, because in each exile, even though the people come out of exile, there is a spiritual residue that remained from the previous exile. A spiritual exile that is called Edom. God has a big business with Edom to settle. I want you to understand this. There is a showdown, and the spirit of Edom is the spirit of Satan himself. And God has a showdown right now with Edom, and he's ready to settle this. Let me explain to you the spirit of Edom for a minute. Because if you know Edom, if you take the word Edom, and you know Edom name was Esau. Esau, if you flip the letter, is the name Yeshua. Wait a second, what are you saying?
Jesus.
Are you saying that Yeshua is really a spirit of Satan? No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying there is a spirit upon those who claim to be representing Yeshua, who bring the spirit to try to rob the Jewish people to the world. Think about this. Who persecuted the Jews the last 2,000 years? Sorry to say it was Christians. But this spirit did not start it with Christianity. It's dating back. Anybody who put a roadblock before the Jewish people in entering the covenantal relationship with the God of Israel have the spirit of Edom. All about me, me. It's all about me.
No, it's about the Jews.
I'm the most important thing.
It's about Hashem.
No, you are not. Israel is important.
Oh God. Oh,
Yeah.
so is he doing like with the Edom or Esav then backwards, like that's an antichrist? That's always, do you know what I'm saying? It's like a trick. Like if it's a reversal
no,
of that,
Esau,
it's
they change a
antithetical.
letter in Esau and it's Yeshua, so Jesus. So Jesus is associated with Esau. And he said earlier that the guardian angel of Esau is Satan. So all these Christians online, you'll hear everywhere the satanic tropes that, oh, Jews secretly worship Satan. They worship Yahweh. They believe Satan works for Yahweh as an angel, and they see the West and Christianity as satanic. And that's when you see like Dugan or Russian Orthodox Church, they're always saying, oh, the West is satanic and antichrist, right? The Kabbalah rabbis say the exact same thing. And lots of Christians say the same thing. Oh, the evil Satan, we're the new Babylon, we're the new Sodom and Gomorrah, like we're going to have God's vengeance because of abortion or something like this, right?
Well, and again,
paganism.
they spin this themselves too, right? Of kind of thing of like, and again, that's the hook, right? That now they have a hook on you or on us widely, right? That they can use against us. Even though it might be a trick, even some people might discount it or historically try to refute it, the sum of it is that most people are under that spell, I would say. I don't think that's not a widely kind of known thing, not at this point anyway. But listen to this clip. Here's another one you shared from the JNS, what is it? The Jewish News Services. They have these conferences regularly.
Jewish National Syndicate.
Oh, National Syndicate. There we go. Thank you. Yeah. And, some incredible clips have come out of there. But here's another one. Check this out.
Because the West is itself gripped by a cultural death wish. The Western culture that stands against the Jews is going down. The West will survive only if it decides to love itself and if it decides to love us, the Jewish people, instead of disdaining us and trying to erase what makes the Jewish people special and what's made the West special too.
Yeah, so it's this idea that like they want to, you must love us or you're going to be destroyed. And of course, if as they're working and doing things like lobbying politicians, they run Epstein-type operations to blackmail politicians, they extort them, whatever it is, or they start NGOs to bring in migrants or stuff like that, right? Well, then that's just Hashem's will, right? That's what's so fascinating about this. Then it's just that.
Or censor us for telling the truth. Censor us for telling the truth is a big one too.
Right.
What she said is so rabbinical. The idea that you have to love them. You have to be a Noahide if you want to have a share in the world to come. You have to acknowledge that they are special. Like what she said, right? About how they're special, their special mission, they're God's chosen people. You have to serve them as Noahides, acknowledge their God, don't do any idol worship or blasphemy, serve them, acknowledge their God's chosen people, and then you have a share in the world to come. It's what all the rabbis will say. So love them, serve them, otherwise you're Amalek and you'll be destroyed. I don't know if she's a rabbi, but she might as well be because that's what they all say.
Well, it's not that it's just a one-off, right? We hear this continuously and regularly. There's new clips coming out all the time of be they rabbis or other activists who are saying these types of things, essentially, right? You got to bow down, bend the knee, and do what we want you to do. And if you turn against that, we'll destroy you. And if we work towards that, then that's God's will. It was always just meant. It was prophecy. It was just meant to happen. While of course they're like using billions of dollars in some cases and pushing really hard to like inflicted the changes that they want to do, but then they can kind of claim that that's just a supernatural thing that actually is happening as they're doing those things.
Right. Self-fulfilling prophecy that when you have a religion that's going to like piss off other people and then you say, oh, it's a prophecy that they're all going to hate us. Well, I guess, not a miracle. That's almost like inevitable that would happen. And then it plays into their hand of the victimhood and discrediting the evil anti-Semitic Amalek villain. It's so crazy, though. All these hours and hours of prophecy of rabbis, compilations that me and my guys have put together, and yet all the top Zionists, they run with this lie that like they're the guardians of the West and our greatest allies, Judeo-Christian values, our shared values. And they're defending us from the West. And if they fall, then America would fall. If America betrays Israel, then they'll pull away and we'll collapse and be destroyed. And it's so crazy that they're able to gaslight and get away with this because it's just straight up in the Talmud. And we have clip after clip of saying that Rome has to fall before Israel can rise up and fulfill their messianic age. We have to be destroyed for them to have their Messiah and their Jewish prophetic utopia.
So, trend I've been watching in terms of that recently is the aspiration for, well, Israel primarily, I guess, but it extends beyond Israel's border, but it's for Israel to become an AI superpower. And I'm wondering what aspect technology has and plays into this as well. I've seen some rabbis talk about it, but for the most part, of course, you can look at who is behind some of the major AI companies. You have Sam Altman with OpenAI, for example. You have Peter Thiel, who is overall kind of tied into that mindset, at least, right? You have a Larry Ellison of Oracle, for example. There's many others that are, and some are not, but regardless, these are things that are just kind of tapped into infrastructure that's both like has R&D offices in Israel or somewhere in Tel Aviv, essentially, right? And the application of AI, and for Israel to become an AI superpower, is, of course, that this might be the ultimate super weapon of them all. It will be a blanket control, right? Let's say you run society on these types of systems in the future, and who controls that AI agent? Sure, it might go rogue and do something on its own. That's a whole different question. But the point is, at least if you have people funding it, coding it, or producing these things, they're in the hands of people that do not want, any good for us. Well, now you're in an even bigger situation. Do you think that the pullout from America, because I've seen these articles, I covered one from The Hill. There's someone out of the Jewish Foundation out of San Francisco. I forget the exact name, but he was talking about how Israel must separate itself from America. And part of that, he reasons in the article, was basically because, well, there's a lot of people in America turning against Israel. We're seeing this trend among younger Americans, for example. They say we've lost the Democratic Party, but the Republicans used to always be on our side. But even that's now on shaky ground, right? So if they pull out and leave America, be, as you said, it's almost, again, part of that self-fulfilling prophecy that you said, that it's like, well, we want to stand on our own 2 feet. We don't need your money anymore or whatever. We don't need to have your funding. They'll milk that probably as long as they can anyway. But regardless, if they manage to stay on their own 2 feet, pull out of America kind of economically, crash the economy, turns into just like total chaos and civil unrest or something like that as a consequence. I don't know exactly how that would play out. But the point is,
if anybody were to pull the rug, we'd be in big trouble, right? Look, the debt, the social circumstances. Like EBT cuts off, we have a financial collapse, EBT cuts off. What do you think it's going to look like in all the big cities around the country? Right.
But my point is that would be a feature, not a bug, as we say. That would be something they actually want to do, because that's part of their commandments, right? Is it the mitzvahs? It's called. I have 613 of them, I believe, right? These things must happen before the Moshiach, their Messiah, shows up, essentially. And part of that, as you said, is the destruction of not only Amalek, but Edom as well. And if they associate, if this was any other religion, that's my point too, that we're talking like this, and, this would be like a threat, there would be this would be a national security issue under any other circumstances, essentially. We're like, wait a minute, do we have foreign agents?
Have freedom of Sorry.
No, go on.
I don't think we should have freedom. Like, should a country allow freedom of religion if that religion is like prophesying and fantasizing about you being destroyed and collapsing? I don't think it should be allowed.
Right. No, obviously not if it's a threat. They're talking about this in some European countries because you have radical Muslim pastors, and it's like, sure, of course, I get that. But what is that in comparison to what this is, right? If not a national security threat, or like undermine, just straight up, like look at the Miriam Edelson thing, right? We're just like one of the biggest potential Senate races now. She's going to invest $20 million to get Thomas Massey out by funding his opponent, essentially in is it Tennessee? He's out of where they
Louisiana?
Kentucky. Kentucky. That's right. Yeah, Kentucky. Yeah. But you can just you can just openly just buy politicians. Or just fund them. Like, yeah, drive my line. Here you go. Enjoying your democracy yet? Like, this is easy. If this is easy for us to figure out, Adam, why is there no one in the intelligence
services? And then we talk about them buying
services?
Politicians, and they call it hate speech. Like, dual loyalty, it's a trope, and it's hate speech, and you need to be censored. Just for saying that alone, like, hey, a lot of Zionist influence on the politicians, Adelson and Donald Trump, like, come on. He goes over the Knesset and goes, I asked her, do you like America or Israel more? Which one do you support more? I can't believe he did that, by the way.
And it was like, she's not saying anything. It probably means it's Israel, which is like, yeah. Well, remember the initial funding for the second Trump campaign was, one of the conditions was that Adelson, Miriam in this case, because Sheldon passed away, was that she wants the West Bank. Remember? It was like
that
one
was
of the
rumored. That was like
was it
reported by
rumored?
Haaretz,
Okay.
I think. I don't know if that was necessarily true.
I know there were some, I think it was Jerusalem Post, a number of other outlets that were reporting on it at the time, at least, kind of thing. But I mean,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be that strange considering the track record. That's what I'm saying. It wouldn't be like
No, it's totally believable. But like I said, it was kind of just like, unsubstantiated. It was kind of more of a rumor. I mean, I
Right.
reported it too. I've mentioned it many times, but
Yeah.
just say, because Trump says it's not going to happen. Enough is enough. They're not taking the West Bank. I said no, BB. Like, so, I
But
feel like
that's-
they'd be a lot more pissed about that if he did make that promise, had that string attack. But on the tech issue you were mentioning, I just want to say real quick, like,
Sure.
certainly we're seeing the consolidation, the concentration of the tech power into monopolies, oligarchy of the hands of the few. And with that, and with the more advanced tech, they're going to be able to control the masses even more so. It used to be that, like, before the internet, it was just cable TV and big studios or publishers that could like control what everybody saw and thinks. But now it's like, oh, we're the new media now, like Elon says. And there's social media stuff, but the social engineers at big tech still do control just with the algorithms, what they boost and what they suppress. They can manipulate and direct and engineer the masses. And that is what they're doing. And I think that's why we're seeing like the big Charlie Kirk Christian revival happening right now, and Ben Shapiro and Dennis Prager and Netanyahu all shilling Jesus and Christianity all the time.
Yeah.
It's the most viral stuff for sure.
Yeah.
If they're trying to get rid of it, they're not doing a very good job, because it's pervasive. It's everywhere.
Yeah. There's many more things I want to ask you about, but let's do this little, what do you call it? For free association? What do you call it? Let me throw out some names, and I want your like first impression, what comes to mind. We kind of talked about it already, but Candace Owens.
Discrediting and kooky. Kosher disinfos.
Kooky Candace.
Christian controlled opposition also, yeah.
You played a clip when she was talking to, was it Ellie Reeves, or Reeve, whatever her name is, right? Kind of interesting that there was this, that you can now bake look, I get it will never be perfect. We can't control these people, kind of thing. But when there's a pattern arising, obviously, then it's our job to call that out, like what's going on here, kind of thing, right? But you can associate and kind of an anti-Zionist position, if you will, with easily kooky or debunkable things, and then you kind of drag down the anti-Zionism kind of arguments with that. Like, this is just a crazy person. It's just a crazy person that believes these types of things, essentially. And that seems to be kind of, at this point, the sum of it. Is it a net positive that people are talking about Zionism, or is this a net negative in the end, like with a Candace? What do you think?
Time will only tell, I'd say, but I think it's going to be a net negative. I've been saying that with her since the very beginning too. And like when she's getting so much stuff wrong, and she's like, you're the synagogue of Satan, and you need to believe in Jesus. It's just it's the controlled op paradigm when that's what you're saying. And when it's not Judaism, because I'm a Christian. I don't condemn Judaism. I'm not against Judaism in the Torah, because she can't do that because she's a Christian. That says it all you need to hear right there. But not to mention all the kooky, Bridget McCrone's a man, and she used to even say the earth was flat, and then she's saying, a new kooky Charlie Kirk theory every week, and just making a fool of herself with that. So
she's still on YouTube, right?
Biggest podcast in the world, still on YouTube, not banned anywhere. Got famous with Dennis Prager and Ben Shapiro, and now she's the leading voice. She, I remember she was even she was representing at the congressional hearing. She got a seat to talk about white nationalism.
Yes, that's right. Perfect representative.
Isn't that weird? Yeah.
Well, again,
it's not what's his name? Taylor. Who's the white guy? The big white guy. You guys interview him. Jared Taylor.
Oh, Jared Taylor. Yeah.
It wasn't Jared Taylor there.
No, exactly.
Owens.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, perfect. Exactly, which makes you kind of wonder, right? Because again, ultimately, then that is not a threat. And this is what I was talking about. Like, okay, if there's a trend in this direction, yes, talk about it, but let's bring these and these and these people in so that it doesn't get out of hand. So it doesn't end up somewhere where we can't control it, kind of thing. That's kind of like the environment I'm seeing. It's been happening for a while. It's not new, but like, that is definitely part of the dynamic. Okay, a couple more names there. Stu Peters.
Same thing. Same exact situation as Candace.
Nick Fuentes.
He's not as kooky as they are, but still does the Christian controlled op thing. That and like the underage girls. He said so many like wild things that all the truth that he does say is just going to be undermined, and people are going to dismiss it because of But also at the same time, his popularity is because of some of those wild things. Leftists sharing it. Right wing people sharing it.
Yeah, he had a nice piece there. Let me see if I can find it. I had a screenshot of it in the New York Times there, which was kind of interesting too, because it was written by Michelle Goldberg, who wrote that piece about we can replace them. Remember that? I think it was after Charlottesville or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. But they use this kind of James Dean picture. Looks more rugged than ever in that photo, where it's almost like this kind of. I still think. There is a post the alt-right movement 2016, 15, 16, 17, let's say, where they kind of covered everyone that was bad, kind of thing. And then I think they realized that it's like in a system where like everyone hates the media, everyone are distrustful of the establishment, and the media is really kind of at the forefront of that. You really have an environment where like actually talking shit about someone, it's kind of giving them legitimacy. It's kind of giving them desperately needed authenticity if that authenticity isn't actually there. And it feels to me that they got very restricted in the type of people that they decided to kind of do hit pieces on. So that if there are people on the outside that are genuinely and legitimately, maybe not concerned, but they're like they loathe the establishment. They hate the media. They know that they lie and all these kinds of things. When they do pieces like that, it's like, well, here's your option then, right? Here's the people you can look at or go to when you're discontent and you want to have a rebel to go to. And again, I can't prove that, but that's kind of the overall view that I've seen recently. With that, do you think he really is a threat to the establishment?
To be honest, it seems like some of them do feel threatened by him. You see a lot of them kvetching and maybe they are hyper paranoid. So anybody getting popular saying anything critical of Jews, maybe. But I think the smart ones know how the paradox of anti-Semitism, certain forms of anti-Semitism like Catholicism and saying Jews killed Jesus and stuff like that, actually plays into their hands. Because is Groyperism and Nick Fuentes going to take over the Catholic Church? Are they really going to take over? Like, is the Zionist conservative party really going to just hand over the reins without a fight or a total war? Or all types of dirty tricks? Is Israel not going to burn it all down? If anything, they're just using Nick as the pretext and the justification to paint Edom as the evil rise of anti-Semitism, and the Jews got to make Aliyah and they're not safe here anymore, and it's 1930s Germany and all of that. So yeah, I'd say some of them do think, some of them individuals see him as a threat, but I'd say the people that really get it and figure it out, probably not. They see him as a safe, controlled, because if you're a Catholic and you believe in the God of Israel, on that level of the bare minimum, you are controlled opposition, because you're not opposing the Torah and the God of Israel, which is the foundation of Jews and Israel and Zionism.
There was again another rabbi that we talked about how this was actually beneficial, because there's another prophecy, which is the gathering of Israel, right? The promise every Jew is going to return to the land, kind of thing. So there is a function, and of course, this doesn't mean therefore don't talk about Zionism. That's obviously not my argument here, obviously, but I'm just saying that weaved into that there is a function as well. And you can look at it the other way too, which is with more rise of quote unquote anti-Semitism or anti-Zionism even, you get a very good foundation to pass laws, for example, right? And again, therefore, I'm not saying, therefore don't talk, don't say anything. I mean, we're forced. It doesn't matter what you do, but there's a function. He said basically this is actually good. This is the gathering of Israel. I'm trying to pull up the exact quote there's a quote from the Bible there. I had a screenshot of it. I can't find it now, but it talks about that. And there's a couple of passages where all Jews are going to go home and Israel is going to be become complete again, essentially. So there seems to be an interesting potential, function, I guess, of sorts, kind of within that. And then the other question is, so therefore, what's the greater threat, right? And of course, here's why a Candace Owens can't do something like this. I think the biggest fear is maybe there's other things, but one of the prime fears is white people organizing. That's what I think. That's one of the prime, like that we can't, whatever happened, that cannot happen kind of thing. And so what's the net result of Fuentes? Well, it seems to be mostly a multiracial group of sorts that are, yes, they're pushing anti-Israel talking points, anti-Zionism, Catholicism, but it's not some, I mean, he continuously and over again counter-signals Wignats, white nationalists, and other activist groups and other movement. They're trying to do other things. And then when you see the sum of that, then would they really be threatened with what looks to be more or less kind of a multiracial conglomerates that just wants like kind of mild anti-Semitism and Catholicism weaved in? Is that really a
and
threat?
Is Jesus first? And is Jesus first?
Yeah, not race first, not folk first. It's religion first, right? Yeah, religion before race, right? Which takes me to this other point. And again, for those that don't consider that a thing, I can't address them. It's like, okay, they choose a religion, fine, kind of thing. So my interest is kind of like, okay, well, if there are people of different faiths, is it possible kind of to work with them? And one of the passages, and Mark Bracken sent me this after we covered some of this, and we've talked kind of in these terms around different ways, but he put it very good. He said, if your faith lead your folk to be genocided to extinction, of what use was your faith? Without the folk, the faith will be a dead letter read by nobody. No folk, no faith. We can only discuss faith if our children actually survives. And that's interesting because that kind of swings in either direction. Do you think bridging this is possible, or is just totally out of the picture of people that are they're willing to put their folk first? They're willing to say, all right, we got obviously a race issue here. We're being replaced. We're being genocided in our countries. We might not have more than, 10, no one knows, 10 years, 15 years, until many of our people will be minorities in our own country. Is it possible to bridge
think if
this?
Any Christian actually puts race before Jesus, they're not a real Christian, and they're going to be condemned by their churches, and the churches are going to counter signal, and they're going to do everything they can to destroy you, or they're going to have more sympathy for Jews and be the defenders of anti-Semitism and defender of immigrants going to their ICE hearings down at the border like the Catholic Church is doing. So no, I don't think it's going to happen within the churches. I don't think that there's going to be a Christian like taking back of the churches and making it pro-white. The numbers and the demographics are going in the complete other direction anyway. It's going to be Christianity is not even I don't know the exact statistic now, but I know in a few decades it's going to be majority non-white religion if it's not already. It's exploding among non-white countries, and it's gone down a lot in European countries. So they're not going to turn around. It's probably going to get even worse and more woke and liberal and pro-immigrants and anti-white, if anything.
Yeah, there's no generational shift here. You think that's going to occur where like Gen Z is just more based on the, Israel issue or something. So therefore they'll be the ones who become, cardinals or bishops or pastors or whatever and kind of take it over. Do you think that's going to happen or no?
No, we'll see some of it online, but it's not going to transfer over into the real world and the real churches.
Interesting, because there is obviously a resurgence, right, of Christianity specifically in America. There's some in Europe too, I think, and I was looking at the numbers the other day, and as far as I understand it, it's the most of the growth is among young men, first of all, and apparently females are for the most part kind of out of the situation. At least the white ones, I think, are just a liberal and woke, and they don't want any of that shit kind of thing, right? But it's interesting, because I think it's genuinely based on they are seeking tradition. Things are going to shit. It's fucking awful. It's all this tranny shit. It's all this anti-white shit or whatever. So a lot of these young men, they go to church, right, to find something to kind of hold on to cling on to that anchors you somehow in a position where like, at least I have this. And then, of course, what are they kind of tapped into? Well, they're tapped into, some of the things that we showed today of like how they're behind the refugee resettlement programs and stuff like that. There's a lot of kind of anti-white sentiment already weaved into it. Many of them, not all maybe, but most of them are embracing, LGBTQ and pride values and things like this. And so, what is is there any tradition left at all there? You see what I'm saying? It doesn't seem like it to me anyway. What do you think?
Yeah, certainly. I don't think anybody can deny that. I've noticed also it's not just like the LGBTQ or feminism or that stuff that's making people want to go back to Christianity. I think it's a lot of the modern day satanic panic, like especially online and like, conspiracy, viral conspiracy videos. It really is like a pipeline to Yahweh and Jesus, when every conspiracy is like, oh, they're adrenochrome and blood drinkers and fallen angels and Nephilim and demons and UFOs are really, fallen angels and demons and stuff like that. And, everything's satanic and occult. Then what does that do? It like scares people. And then they think, well, if that's the problem, if Satan is the villain and the threat, well, what's the solution? And the answer, it's Jesus and the Jewish Messiah and the God of Israel. So that's also what's pushing people in this direction. And that's the role that Satan plays, as just the boogeyman, the villain that scares everybody into the pews, into the churches, and worshiping the Jewish God. That's the role that he plays.
So let's do some theological, exercise, gymnastics. I think you've mentioned or talked about this. What's that?
Some pill pull.
Some pill pull. With Jews then killing Christ, and I think you've talked about this. You can go more into detail about this, right? But wasn't that then the part that was the fulfillment of the prophecy, or like for this to be what it became, right? That was a necessity, a component in it. Like if you removed that out of it, it wouldn't have been what it actually has become, right? Kind of thing. So it's almost like kind of, many cogs in one machine, and then saying, well, we want the machine running, but this cog we got to kind of take out because it just doesn't fit or work. But then the whole machine kind of breaks down. I'm not sure if that's a good analogy, but that's what comes to me when I hear it.
Yeah, this is why this like modern day criticism of Jews, you're going to see in the replies everywhere, videos everywhere, they're always saying like the central grievance is they killed Jesus. They killed God, right? And it's so illogical. You don't convince most Christians of this because they all know, like, oh, it's God's plan. That's what the prophecy said. That had to happen. Jesus dying for our sins as the sacrifice and shedding his blood is what brought salvation to the world and God's ultimate plan. So being mad about that and having that be the big grievance, you look like unhinged, illogical loons mad for no reason. Might as well be mad at God. It was his plan to do it to begin with. It was his prophecies that had to happen. You wouldn't be saved from your sins. You'd be going to hell if Jesus didn't die. It's like in Christianity, it's the most important thing that ever happened in the universe, Jesus dying for your sins. But then you're going to be mad at the Jews for doing it when it's like God's whole scheme to begin with.
Yeah, again, I mean, I choose to look more at current things, obviously, what's being done to undermine, from the Borba Specters to the Noel Ignativ to the Aneta Kahanas to there's an endless list here, obviously, of, to the Hyases and all that kind of stuff. Of like, all right, like that's wrecking us now, like that's a good start, if you ask me, or whatever.
We should be talking about those real things, exactly. Not you killed Jesus or Simon of Trent, blood libel 500 years ago. Like, dude, that's the best thing. People are going to think you're kooky, and they're going to think, oh, these poor Jews, they have sinned. This is how the way it plays out in the real world. Unfortunately, I don't know if you guys haven't noticed, all the leadership of the churches are all repenting and condemning their history of anti-Semitism and becoming huge defenders of anti-Semitism. And that's not going to turn around. So all you're doing is playing the victim, giving their victimhood status, and discrediting opposition. That's the role that Christianity and Islam does in the Judeo paradigm.
So a couple of more names there we talked about earlier, right? To throw out a couple. Matt Walsh.
Oh, I mean, he works for Ben Shapiro. He's a Catholic. Like he's got a lot of good takes though. Besides those two things,
you like Matt
Walsh?
A
Christian working for Ben Shapiro, he has some decent takes. Yeah, he's not the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
He'll have some good monologues, like talking about really common sense, like anti-white stuff. So.
Yeah, I always felt he could go a lot further than he actually does. And he knows things. There's like leaked tapes from like 10 years ago, but he's like kind of restraining himself, to like, it was like a clip the other day we played, but like he was talking about like, I just care about Americans, it's about America. And it's like, well, which kind of Americans? Can we get specific here? Like he knows about the demographic replacement and all these things. And sure, occasionally he's kind of trickled it in here and there, but he just doesn't. maybe he can't unleash that fully because he does work for Ben Shapiro, kind of as you said, but he feels at some point like, I respect you if you have a plan to kind of drip meal this to your audience and slowly kind of get them aboard of something, and all of a sudden you have them there. But now to feel some of those guys are like, they're just kind of, now they're a gatekeeper as opposed to someone who can actually have an opportunity to reveal a lot more to their audiences. Am I right?
Gatekeeper. I don't know if you said it there, but what's the term? Not a limited hangout, a release valve, a little bit of a release valve. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's just kind of an inevitable thing in the landscape, regardless. But I think he sincerely doesn't like the anti-white stuff and is pushing back against it.
I agree.
Think he's up to some like nefarious thing where he's like trying to only give a little bit of truth on that. I'm sure he's holding back on the Israel issue because of Ben Shapiro. Probably when his contract runs out, he'll go independent and go a little harder. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened.
But still, I mean, the guy has like 6 kids or something. Like, they're going to grow up and be a minority in this country. Like, he knows these things. What are you waiting for? He has a lot of money. What does he have to lose? You know what I mean? Like, just fucking say it. You know what I mean? Like, just, this got to stop. Let's organize. Let's do something about it. Anyway, I'm not expecting him to be some savior. I'm just, it's curious, right? Because a lot of these people are, the ones who are grabbing a lot of the attention, and there's an unwillingness there to just speak the plain truth about what's happening after a certain period of time. I give these people a lot of rope still. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, what's holding them back? Another one is Tucker Carlson.
Kooky Christian controlled op. Again, he's like, I got attacked by demons. And I don't know. I shouldn't do the Alex Jones voice. Sorry. He's like, he got attacked by demons in his bed. I was sleeping with 4 dogs and got attacked by demons because I was scratched. And it made me really want to go read the Bible. Like, really read it. But Jesus is he's on the new thing that Jesus is the answer.
That's pretty good, Tucker. Not bad.
Not good. Yeah, so he's doing the discredited, kooky stuff, and then promoting Jesus. So, like I said, anybody that promotes Jesus as the solution, I feel like is part of the Judeo matrix, promoting the King of the Jews in a Jewish fairy tale.
All right. So, if you were an autocrat, you were God, Adam. What would you like to see happen? How do we get out? How do we get our people out of this? Do you see what I'm saying? I mean, I'm not saying if you're God, you can, I guess, use kind of what we would perceive as magic. But I'm saying, like, well, what's the ideal scenario for you? Is it just like come home, white man? Like you have a faith?
Stop falling for Jewish tricks. Stop falling for the fake Torah. Stop elevating Jews as the prophets of God and that their prophecies are real. The Jesus deception, the Old Testament psyop, the fairy tales of the Torah, if people could just stop believing these lies, it would be a huge improvement, and then we could start addressing a whole lot of the other problems, which a lot of them are intertwined with the religions. But yeah, it would be that. Stop falling for the prophecy deception. Wake up from the spell. You've been hypnotized that these prophecies are real and the Jews were chosen by God and can predict the future. I would say that first and foremost. Stop this prophetic like mind virus that's got people thinking like, well, it doesn't matter if they're ruling us now and if like our countries are collapsing and we're being replaced in all European countries, because we're going to pray and trust the plan and Jesus is going to come back and save us. It's got to get really bad, but that's just God's plan. Jesus already won anyway. Actually, he conquered death. He defeated Satan. He's ruling in heaven. He's the king over the world, even though we're losing. Like, it's all cope. It's trusting the plan. So if we don't fix the Christian problem, the future looks grim, I think.
So I believe I believe in an afterlife of sorts. I think we go somewhere or whatever. I think we are
Valhalla.
We're more than just.
We will drink mead in Valhalla.
Yes.
Henrik.
Well, you got to get an honorable death, which is bravery. Right, you got to fight. You got to die in battle. I mean, this is kind of a battle. Obviously, what we're doing now, we're trying to defend our people. So hopefully, I'm deserving of meeting my ancestors in Valhalla. But anyway,
I die by the sword of a Christian, I will go to Valhalla.
But no, I'm just well, I'm getting too kind of spiritual about it. But I just want to point to something of like what I see as well as an aspect to this, or a component of it, is that when you put too much maybe emphasis within any faith for that matter, but we're talking about Christianity right now, on the afterlife, where, and of course this is not true for everyone. There's not many Christians I know, they're not helpless, they're not doing anything, they're just saying, don't worry about the world because we're going to go to heaven. So there's all kinds, obviously, right? But having said that, I think for a lot of people, there is part of that kind of thing. It's almost like a kind of a, I've heard it from some, and maybe that's not, I'm not even sure what denomination that would be, but almost like this kind of Gnostic, like this is a place of evil, right? The earth it's controlled by Satan, almost in those type of terms, right? This is a fallen place, this is not good. Our place is the eternal place in heaven, kind of after, right? And again, I've seen that, maybe not, again, as I said, totally restricting people to do nothing or have no desire to improve things here and now, but that is a component, I think, in terms of like having a mindset or a theology or a belief maybe that it's not really about this place, right, kind of thing. And that is,
well, if you're a Christian, what is the best case scenario that like Jesus or God's plan unfolds, the Antichrist rules, and then Jesus comes down in a horse and saves the day? Like, is that really what you're betting our future and our children's future on that to happen? And that's the best case scenario too, and that's what's got to happen.
Well, and is that
like a handicap that does to people's mindset?
Yeah, exactly. Is that part of that mentality has been accepted because there's kind of an innate or baked in with the cake, if you will, idea that like ethnicity, genetics, race, like the pastor said, doesn't matter. It's about what you believe, and that you believe what you're told to believe. That's the most important thing, as opposed to like trying to kind of save the world, or because the Jews view it differently, right? They have the Tikkun Olam. They continuously want to repair. I even think they have. Do they even have a concept of an afterlife? I've heard some of them say we don't believe in that.
They don't talk much about it. No,
they don't, do they? Right?
Yeah.
So they
want to bring heaven on earth. They want to have their messianic. They care about this world.
They do,
care,
right? Yeah.
Not about individual salvation like Christians do, but around the nation's salvation. Collectively is how they think.
Right. So that's kind of already it's like that's a, if you view it strictly then as like, whether it's racial competition over resources or power or whatever you want to see it, now you've already kind of limited your opponent significantly psychologically through spirituality, that like this is not really what matters, but to these guys this is what matters. And now all of a sudden you have an uneven playing field, and they have an advantage over you that we do not, right?
Yeah, this life doesn't matter. It's only a test. All that you're collecting your treasures in heaven, and heaven is what matters. The Jews don't share that same mindset as the Christians do. And think of also this, how demoralizing it is when like so many people online and like watching conspiracy stuff, it's like everything's satanic. So they have their Babylonian mystery religions. They have magical powers. They're drinking baby blood. You know, they can predict the future. They're the devil's children. Like, you're elevating them to like supernatural villains where there's nothing we can do. All we can do is put our faith in Jesus, the Jewish Messiah, and trust the plan that he's going to save us in the end.
Yeah.
And not everybody has that mindset, but that is a pervasive thing that like is inherent in this like belief in like predetermination and prophecies.
Right. So what was I thinking about? It was something I wanted to say in relation to that. I want our people to get out of our state. And I think it's true across the board. And some things are more inhibiting, some maybe are less inhibiting, but the sum total is we're overall as a people, as a folk, in a sad state, right? We don't know how to fight back. We don't know how to organize. We don't know how to do this, don't know how to do that. And we're obviously fighting a lot over small minutia and details at a time when we're at a demographic, door essentially that's closing, right? So again, I think I'm genuinely, I am able to put faith to the side for the folk, or put religion to the side for the sake of race. Right?
But they're not. That's the problem, Henrik. They're not. They're not a true Christian. They'll be condemned by the real Christians if they do that. I see it all the time. They're calling them neo-pagans. They're saying like, oh, what? You want to unite with them? Plus, they say it all the time. They don't want to unite with pagans. Pagans are satanic and demonic, according to a real Christian. So
there's no way. We're going to splinter even smaller and smaller and smaller.
Inevitably, if we align with Christians on certain issues, like we're going to align on those issues. But it is I think the Jesus question is an insurmountable thing that like it can't just be, oh, we'll ignore it and then figure it out when we win. That's the talking point I've heard so often. But what if we won't win if we don't figure it out first? What if we're guaranteed and destined to lose if you play the antithesis of Esau and Edom and are another version of Judaism fighting against the Jews? What if you've already lost? I say this all the time. It like Christians do. If you're fighting over who are the chosen people and who has the covenant and who the Messiah is, you've already lost. The game's already over. You're dead on arrival. So
got an overlay
I
on you
don't
there.
think we can work it out after we win. I think we're guaranteed to lose if we don't wake people up from this Jesus deception before it's too late.
Oh gosh. So smaller numbers it is according to your view. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
What's that?
No, so small. Yeah. Because what I'm saying is,
put it this way. I want to win people over, starting with the influencers. I think a lot of influencers agree with what we're saying and have Christian fatigue, and see the problems. They're just still at the stage where they're scared to speak out about it because of losing a lot of support. So that's one thing. But also, like, already, if you look at the statistics, especially with the younger generations, most people don't believe in Christianity. It's already kind of dying on its own. So why try to salvage it when already all the institutional churches are like against you and anti-racist and would call you a heretic and they're philo-Semitic and stuff. So why try to salvage it and fix? Like, do you want to continue taking the Viking longboat across the ocean if it's got tons of holes in it and it was engineered by our enemies that wanted to destroy us? Or should we jump out, swim back to shore, and then build a new boat that wasn't designed by Jews and then try to sail across? Like, how about that for an analogy? Does that work?
That works. Yeah, it's interesting because I see a lot of, and again, we mentioned it before, but reiterate that point then to emphasize what you're saying, that I see, and this is true across the board, whatever it is, white people have this interesting propensity where we get into like niches and small little interest things or whatever. And it's not that other groups don't fight or they don't bicker. They do. I mean, there's a lot of Jewish conflicts. There's there's different dominations of Muslims and stuff like that too. But white people have this kind of like very, I think it's partially the sense of morality. And personally, I don't associate that with religion. I think there is actually, and it sounds very atheistic here, but like a kind of a biological function to the type of morality that the white man developed, right? And I think it primarily, and this is why you see different morality between different races, by the way, too. There's selection pressure for these things over time. I'm not taking entirely away a spiritual aspect to it. I genuinely think, but I'm saying I think there is a function to it within a society, especially if you have small tribes. You're in a position where basically you have winter coming. You got to prepare for winter. If you're ostracized from your community, you're dead, right? This is kind of what Kevin McDowell talks about in terms of, our sense of altruism or wanting to help and these types of things. And he talks, and I think an extension to that would be like, therefore, your body's survival is your survival. Your survival is his survival. We only have this chain, and the weakest link in it will be the problem. If you do this wrong, you're ostracized. That means death, right? You have a selection pressure over time. Those that were antisocial couldn't adapt to this. They were literally put, out of the picture. Now, of course, he has a wonderful organizing aspect to it as well. I treat someone else the way I want to be treated, right? I do good things. I don't think white man had to write down "thou shalt not kill" because it was literally like that was part of us. Like if you kill someone, you're also going to be ostracized and dead because no one can trust you, no one can rely on you, kind of thing, right? So I think there's a biological survival mechanism to morality. Now, of course, that also increases chances of life, right? These things are mentioned in the Bible too, right? Go forth and multiply. You want as many of yourself as possible. This is kind of like, well, that's selfish. Why do you have that in there, kind of thing? I thought this was a fallen world, right? You can find maybe contradictions within that, but I'm saying the continuation of life is good, and especially the continuation of us, right? We want to do well, and morality as treating others the way you want to be treated and treating people good is ultimately foundational, I think, for the survival of any type of group. And again, if you have a totally different climate where you have the different selection pressures, that might not be as big of an issue. There you can take someone's shit, and you can always, you can take, it doesn't matter. It's more communal in a different way when it comes to raising kids. They don't have high investment parenting, these types of things, right? So I think it's encoded in there. But where was I going with this?
I'm not at war. I'm not at war with the people, with the Christians or the Muslims. Right. I'm opposing like the religion, what they believe. I want to change their minds. I want to convince them and wake them up from the spell they've been hypnotized under. I want to free them, liberate them from the shackles of Yahweh and his chosen people.
Yeah.
I want you to get off your knees and stop worshiping the King of the Jews, like it says in the Bible, the Jewish Messiah, which the whole point of the Messiah is to conquer the Gentiles and rule the world. So why would you want to do that? Why, if your problem with Jews is they rejected the king, their Messiah that was meant to conquer us to begin with? It doesn't make any sense. Henrik, it would be like if some sect of Hindus rejected Krishna, and then the other sect didn't like them, and then we all start worshiping this Krishna rejected figure and call ourselves spiritual Hindus, and then coping Christians are like, we don't worship a Jewish God, we don't worship the Indian God. Yes, you do, and why do you even care? But yeah, I'm at war with not the people, but the deception, the lie that they've been convinced of, and I'm just trying to change their mind. And when you know what I know, and when you've been researching the Bible and the Jesus deception and the origins of Christianity as obsessively as I have, there's no way I'm ever going to keep my mouth shut and say, oh, let's just unite with the Christians, and I'm not going to speak the truth about Jesus being a Jewish myth that was meant to theologically conquer us.
Yeah. So it comes from a place of love. That's the point you're making.
Exactly. And wanting us to survive. They just, they don't know better, and I'm trying to help them figure it out. That's kind of the way I see it. I want what's best for them. That's why I'm trying to wake them up that Jesus is not the solution.
And then also at the same time, I'm trying to put myself in their shoes, right? Because now you're attacking, who they are, right? And for some people, this will be different. For some people, it's their culture Christian, maybe. For some people, it's genuinely, and I don't mean this to sound, mean to them or whatever, but they have it as a crutch. I've seen a lot of people, and I know a lot of people personally that have struggled with a lot of different things, and this is a thing that they can hold on to, essentially, right? In a very uncertain world, it's complicated out there. It's getting way worse, right? Way more uncertain, right? I think as economic and even demographic decline, you'll see a rise in religion as well on top of it. You talked about the dying, and that long term, I think that's possible. Maybe, but short term, I think you will see a rise in it as something to cling on to, kind of in the storm. Which takes me to the other place as well, because I see these as common sometimes as well. Well, what do we do, right? Kind of what are you offering? What do you and I'm not saying that's your job, but I'm saying that's how I feel. That's where I feel I come in, and my job, I guess. These are complementary, not in competition with each other, right? But it's like, okay, I want our people to come home to your own faith and your ancestors, and at least look honestly at Native European spirituality, kind of recognize that your ancestors were something before you. There's a long history. We don't even know how long, 10,000 years, 20,000, maybe it's 8,000. I don't know. No one exactly knows. But the reality of the situation is our people were pagan far longer than they've been Christian. And in some European countries, they were Christian even shorter, right? Like in Sweden and the Baltic countries, that was late. I mean, that was around just about 1,000 years ago, even less in some of the Baltic countries, right? So I feel that too, like kind of I want to also kind of offer something, and kind of like, what do we do? And that's why I've been thinking about like different things in terms of like, I think it's something that needs to be, and it always sounds kooky, I'm going to invent a new religion. That's what I'm saying either, but I'm saying genuinely like if we don't have all the answers, some people need not only simple answers, but simple instructions, right? Personally, I'm not that kind of person. I've always been just thinking about everything, theorizing about everything. I question everything, and I know plenty personally Christians that also question. It's not that they're shut down, all of them, but some of them are they just want a manual essentially. Well, tell me what to do, kind of thing, and make it easy, kind of thing. I mean, for Christ's sake, most people don't even have an internal dialogue. Do you see those studies? It's like, whoa, okay, so I understand. Like, I'm not expecting everyone to be like me and questioning things all the time, or even,
I think every culture develops their own norms and moral norms and ethics, and that's where you get your rules you're able to live by. Is like the golden rule is not like just a Christian thing. So I think we can have all of those things. If people will like it a lot more, the spiritual aspect, they can look into whatever pre-Christian ancestral faith like they want, or their people that is their background. But just we can do all of that without believing in the Jewish prophecies.
No, of course, exactly.
You don't need the Jewish yeah, I know you know that.
No, we're talking to the audience at the same time. Those who are interested in listening to what we were thinking genuinely about this. And again, it genuinely comes from a place of love, and I want what's best for our people, right? And so and this goes across the spectrum, from our psychology to our philosophy to our religions, to our approach to life, all these things, right? We're smart people. We can look at multiple things at the same time and try to figure out what's the best path forward kind of is, right? But I understand also, this is what I want to say, I also understand that it's hard to feel that your identity is kind of being attacked, or the things that you relied on or genuinely, I think, made you feel good, because we're not denying that people have spiritual experiences or are going through shit, or that they can even find comfort in a belief of something that's higher than yourself, be that a creator or anything. I think all those things are real. It's just how we project onto those things, that we reach for the easiest things that we know, right? And in a culture that is Christian, if you have a supernatural experience and you genuinely feel positive, outcomes from that, you will most likely probably associate, well, that has to be the religion that I've learned about, right? That has to be what they're talking about when they're talking about these spiritual experiences in the Bible, for example, right? Do you think that's true?
I do. And I think that what happens, though, when people kind of start to realize that, like, Christianity isn't real, the Old Testament Judaism isn't real, the Jews were never chosen, it's not that difficult. It's not like you have a mental breakdown and, your whole identity and everything is gone. You still have your identity. You're just realizing that your identity, like, isn't to be a spiritual Jew and a sheep, like, worshiping the Jewish God. If you don't believe it anymore, then it shouldn't be, for most people, I don't think it's liberating. It's not that hard to lose an identity if it wasn't even your identity to begin with. It was an identity, created by Saul the Pharisee and Jews for you to be basically Noahides. So I think people are scared of it and feel threatened, but if their minds actually are changed, it's not that difficult. People are actually end up being happier. I hear people all the time like, I used to be brainwashed by all that, and now they saw the light, and they're not like, having mental breakdowns or anything. I think they're better off for it.
You don't think most people need something to replace it with?
I think there's already the replacements out there. Maybe not also being okay with not knowing everything, not knowing how life began, not knowing if anything happens after you die, like just being okay with not having all the answers is also kind of freeing as well.
See, I think that I think that's probably scary for a lot of people. That's what I think.
Well, I mean, the Bible can be scary too,
No, of course, but it's something. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Even though,
right.
Even though it might be contradictory or kind of strange, or like, what the hell is that part of? Like you can, you can find things, right? And then it's like, that's a good thing. That's a more, overlaps with morality that you can find in the 9 Noble Virtues, or so. Like obviously there's overlaps too, right? But that's what I said. Mm-hmm. That's why I think there's a lot of pagan elements, if you will, then that's weaved into the mindset, because Europeans also influenced Christianity monumentally, right, kind of thing. Even the cathedrals that we built, look at the Gothic cathedrals, right? Why do they call them that? Why do they look like canopies of trees when you walk into them? You look up the nave and kind of thing like this. These are sacred buildings that are built out of stone to replicate like old Germanic groves, essentially. I mean, that's kind of what it is. And you can say, well, that makes it even worse then, because now it's a synthetic simulacrum, kind of thing. But at the same time, it's almost like, so therefore, whatever we touch, like, we will still do good things. We can be inhibited, but we can still do incredible things within that. Ideally, of
Absolutely.
course, we're
I know none of those cathedrals were built because of the Bible.
Right? Exactly. Yeah.
Right. I wanted to make another point we were mentioning earlier. The problem with the Christians online is they spend so much time focused and hating and doing memes on pagans. So what are they ultimately doing? They're not taking back their churches. You know, they're not changing what the Vatican believes, or they're not getting all the Christian Zionist followers to, you know, stop believing. The Christian Zionist churches aren't collapsing. They're not taking them over, right? So instead of they cope, they can't do anything about how kosher and hijacked, or whatever you want to say, modern day establishment big Jesus Christianity is. So instead they attack online all the people that are actually opposing the whole Judeo construct. So they're just like the first line of defense, running cover for the actual root of the problem.
Very, very good. Let me take a couple of super chats, and then we can do some closing thoughts here too. Very interesting discussion. I'm really enjoying this. So this is the kind of thing that I think it's fun. I've always enjoyed this, right? Politics, religion, philosophy, you know, kind of like all that stuff. You know what I mean? And again, it comes from a place where I want to figure out what our people need. Where are we? What happened? For, you know, how do we get here? How do we get out of it? Yeah, like all of those things, right? To do the best for it. Okay, here's Albert. Thank you so much, Albert, one of our biggest supporters. He's our angel investor. Thank you, Albert, for your incredible support. He says, hi, Henrik. Looking forward to watching this after work. Excited to see Adam's take on the Christian pagan debate. Take care. Thank you so much, Albert. We appreciate you so much. Let me take some of these on Rumble. Hopefully they didn't disappear on me here.
Are you on Odyssey right now? I checked Odyssey.
No, so I stopped streaming to there because I just kind of, I don't know. It's just like, I don't know.
Did you get the financial thing back going there?
Yeah, I did, but I mean, no one wants to do the know your customer, the KYC thing,
Nobody's
to buy the crypto,
okay.
and like it's just kind of. We upload to our Odyssey channel still, and we still get, you know, a few thousand views on over there on, you know, most videos and shows like that. But it's, and I know some like it, but it's like kind of, I don't know. It's Rumble for now. X Twitter seems to be okay for now too. Optics Prime. Love your tribe. Blood is thicker than holy water. Thank you. Warborn 21. Hey, gents, here's a few shekels for the cause. Putting race first. It is the only way whites stand a chance. Until we live by that rule, we're not fighting the same rules as our enemies. Stay strong. Thank you, Warborn. That was good to see you as well. We got J.C. Henderson, 94 for 20. Hail from Canada. Well, to you as well. Thank you. Appreciate the support. Virginian Drifter, good to see you as well. He says, good to see Adam Green back on Red Eyes. The green pill is tough to swallow for Christians, but once you do, the entire kosher Christian conservative movement reveals itself as one big Zionist psyop. He says, thank you. Hail Apollo says, Henrik, you mentioned pre-existing paganism, which Christianity appropriated. You should discuss this with Mark Brahman or Richard Spencer. Paganism had degenerate proto-Jewish cults, which paved the way. See, I don't buy that. I know Mark Brahman, and it's like the Germanic thing was invented by Jews and stuff. And I'm just like, look, I've talked to Mark Brahman and stuff like that too, and we kind of had our falling out. Richard Spencer's gone off the rails, unfortunately, but whatever. It is what it is. That's fine if they want to do an Apollo thing and, you know, talk about that. That's fine. I look. There's nothing clearly like. They're not secretly trying to sell us on like Germanic paganism or like Norse, you know, pre-Christian tradition or anything like that. Like these are, if you go to like the ADL's hate index of symbols and stuff, like the vast majority of them are even just like runes and shit. You know? Yeah. Like it's just like basic, you know, Nordic.
Every ancient European symbol is on their hate list.
Essentially, exactly. Yeah. I mean, swastika is one of the oldest symbols that we have. You know, variations of it and stuff like that too. But sure, if people are interested in that, go check out Mark Brahman. And again, I think I'm not against. Again, it can be an ethnic religion, as you kind of said, Adam. Right? Of like. Okay, well, find out what you primarily are, and then look into that pre-Christian tradition if that's what you're, you know, interested in. And that could be a Greek variation of it. It could be a Slavic thing. It could be an Italic thing. It could be a Celtic thing. It could be a Germanic thing. Take your pick, right? I'm not a syncretist per se, but it's true. I think it's undeniable that there are overlaps. This probably goes back to a very early Aryan, you know, religion of some kind, some type of source point or something like that. And then you can argue over time, were the gods still individual separate things? Were they properties of nature? Were they real things? And again, this is kind of the same thing there. You will have debates on that side too. You will have purity spiraling there too. And it's like this is the only way. And that's my point what I mentioned before about white people. We're very specific and it needs to be right. You know what I mean? Like it needs to be correct, damn it. You know, kind of thing. Like that's the basis. That just seems to be a feature, for the most part, a property that we have, and we kind of have to work with that. I'm not that I want to know the truth. I'm not saying that, but I'm also saying I also don't need everyone around me to believe exactly what I believe, right? It's just not my nature. I'm just like, all right, fine. You know, like, okay, you're cool with this? You're cool with that? Okay, cool. Let's cooperate. Let's work together on this. Let's sort this out. Let's do something, you know, kind of thing. Okay. Let's see here if we have, I thought there was a couple more on Rumble. I don't want to miss those from you guys. And then we can do some closing thoughts, Adam, too. And if there's anything else you want to mention about all this, let me scroll down here. Sorry, guys, I should have like one list. I have to go through the chat. I thought I saw one more. There's one right there. Thunderstorm9 says, most supernatural experiences sound pagan and don't match the imagery in the Bible, like multi-eyed angels or goat-headed beings. Kind of weird. So I interviewed, remember Rick Strassman? He was like big in the conspiracy field. He did the DMT thing. This is what like inspired Joe Rogan on a lot of things, right? Mm-hmm. He's actually the guy who had most of his research on DMT funded by like some Freemasonic group or something like that. It's in the intro of his book. It was kind of interesting. But he wrote a second book where he talked about, he was into natural release of DMT, I think, or something like that. And he tied it to schizophrenia, I believe. I think it was schizophrenia. And he wrote a book about how the early Jews had those like experiences, essentially, like to try to explain why they saw what they saw or how they saw these things or something like that. Of course, you can just argue the easy argument, just like, nothing happened, kind of throw it away. But it's for the sake of, you know, truth or because it's interesting. You do wonder, right? Did they actually have, like, were they just like tripping on or something? They see shit.
Could have just been dreams.
Like just
could have just been
revelations, you know what I mean? Like,
while they're sleeping.
Yeah. I don't know.
Think about it. If you're an ancient Jew and you're conquered by the Romans and you're desperate for the Messiah, you think you're chosen by God and that there's prophecies predicting that you're going to rule the world with your Messiah one day, and you're searching the scriptures and you know them inside and out, and it's all you ever think about is all of these different scriptures. Then you go to bed at night and you start dreaming about figures that you're reading about in these different passages. I think that's how they first envisioned it. And Christianity began as basically a proto-Kabbalist movement of a mystical heavenly Messiah. And it's a fan fiction of a literary construct just fulfilling different prophecies and scriptures from the Old Testament. That's where it came from. Mystical Jews with like ascension vision experiences.
Yeah, someone did an animation of what they kind of, you know, if you look at this description in the Bible of an angel, or at least one of them, there's many different kinds. Mm-hmm. This is what they kind of came up with, I guess, that they generated to try to figure out what you're seeing type of thing, like multiple eyeballs, wings. There's some crazy stuff there. Look at that one. Like, holy shit, you know.
You know what? Actually, I have a book. Let's see if it's here. There's the guy, the Jewish Kabbalist that wrote these books about the Gaon of Vilna. He also has one. He was in the documentary with Straussman, actually. This author, Joel David Bax. Yeah, you can go on YouTube and look him up. Mm-hmm. He was talking DMT and Kabbalah stuff as well.
Interesting. Yeah, because he talked about like a natural release of DMT, and that's one of the reasons that leads to, you know, kind of visions or whatever. But again, who knows, right? Who knows? Okay, let me scroll down a little bit more. I think we had one up here. Randall Waffen says, Adam Greenberg, debate Tuber, you fucking pussy. Who's Tuber? Do you know who?
Some retard nobody.
Do you get any of that still in your chat or anything?
Oh,
or
all
do
the
they
time.
not support you anymore?
The Rumble chat, it's full of like a handful of mentally ill Christians that think they're the true Israelites and that Jesus was a white Aryan.
Well, hopefully, at least
calling me Jewish.
Hopefully, at least they have the audio on, and they
can pathological lying copers, and you guys are
hopefully
really pathetic.
Hopefully, they can hear you out at least, huh? Okay, all right.
No, they can't. They lie nonstop.
All right. Anyway, so well, it is what it is. I'm not expecting me or anyone else convincing anyone or like thinking what I do.
You're definitely not fed ice. You ain't convincing nobody fed ice. We're not falling for your shit.
If you haven't been called a Fed, you're doing something wrong. All right, that's
If
you haven't been called a Jew, you're not doing it right. Okay, that's the internet culture. All right. Anyway, really good discussion. I really enjoyed it. Thank you, Adam, for your time. I really appreciate it. Any other things? What are you looking at next? Is there something major you're following or something like that?
Very close to publishing my first book. I've been working on it for years. It's 400 pages. It is so good. It'll be out very soon. It's called The Jesus Deception, so stay tuned for that. I want to get you back on the show very soon.
Sure, love to.
A new stream and a talk also as well.
Yeah,
and we'll have to be in touch. Keep up the good work.
Awesome. Thank you, Adam, so much for coming on. I appreciate it as always. Keep up the good work, and if you want to get me on your show, I'm happy to do it. Plug your stuff, obviously, beyond the book. So when's the book coming out? Did you have a date on that yet? You said?
It's so close to being done. It could be a week, it could be 3 weeks, but it's about that time frame. It's very soon. My goal is for sure before Christmas.
Gotcha. Okay.
And nomorenews.org is my website. You can find all the links there. I stream on Rumble and Odyssey and X and Telegram.
A lot of good compilations on X as well. Yeah. Yep, definitely. How often do you stream? Every other day?
I'm trying to do like Monday through Friday.
Nice. Yeah. Is it succeeding with a family and all that? Is it hard to squeeze everything in?
It's a struggle. It's a struggle. Without the Christian ties and all the slander and blacklisting and suppression, it is a struggle. But thanks to the supporters, I've been able to do the show. Yeah.
No, I know the feels, man. You see people on YouTube and they're just going off on like saying only, covering all the stuff that we used to cover or whatever, but like we can't get our channel back. We can't get back on there. Yeah. Ultimately, I don't care how it's getting out. Yeah. As long as it is getting out, this is not about me. This obviously it's not about Red Ice. It transcends all that. I don't care. As long as it's happening, fine, But it's just on a personal level. It's kind of like, it kind of irks you a little bit, right? Still restricted and banned, and are you shadow banned on X? Are you like limited? There's certain posts I can do that still tech off, but for the most part, I don't.
There was like a couple weeks ago, something happened. Everybody was complaining about the algorithm, and it got really bad then. But it seems I've had some tweets do a little better. I never have any that like really go pick up viral into the stratosphere and get like tens of thousands of likes or anything. But like 1,000 likes max on something, if anything.
I noticed Twitter X can be kind of quite up and down. Hail Apollo again says, Hendrik, if you're looking for a new religious culture, I'm not. I'm making my own, okay? All right? Aryan cosmology. Okay, here we go. Let's fucking go. Anyway, you should look into Apolloism. I have. I know Mark Brahman. I've read his work and looked at what their proponents are.
We're from the north, though.
Was that?
We're not Italians. We're not Romans. We were the Gauls and the Northmen.
Hey, Stoicism was purely just a Germanic exodus down south, right? Perpetual summer is how some of the best Western philosophies were developed under. Most people in the north, they had to spend a lot of time. Granted, they did have time in the winter. You didn't have to go out as much. That's a lot of the folklore was rehashed, or orders were, the stories, the sagas, and all that stuff was like during the hibernation time of winter, obviously. But most of summer was spent basically preparing for winter, right? You go to a place, if you migrate, some of these tribes further up north, Central and Northern Europe, migrate further south, fucking beautiful weather all the time. You don't have to prep for fucking winter. Like, holy shit, like the time that opened up, right? It's kind of a joke, but that's why someone said, summer built the pyramids. And it's like, well, white people too. But anyway, that's, you know what I mean?
It's actually winter. They're non-existent winters.
If the selection pressure are winter on a group for X amount of thousands of years, and then you give them perpetual summer, then the fucking shit happens. Anyway, it's a different thing. It says it's an analysis.
And lots of raw milk and cheese too. Don't forget.
Obviously, pastoralist supremacy.
And chasing pigs in the forest, all that good fatty non-kosher pork.
A lot of vitamin D, a lot of fish oil. There's good things in the north. Okay, it's an analysis of Euro myth from the white race point of view. We can use to create art for us, maybe for the first time. Thank you, Hail Apollo. I appreciate that insert. Okay, Adam, I'm going to let you go. Thank you, sir, for your time. I appreciate it. Keep up the good work, and we'll stay in touch, and hopefully we can do it again soon.
For
Awesome.
sure. Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, guys, that's it. That's Adam Green. Hope you enjoyed the conversation. If you didn't, that's fine. But I enjoyed it. I think it's fun to talk about these kinds of things. And I think it's important too, by the way. At least think about it. What are we doing here? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow Lana will be back with, she's speaking with Lily Gaddis tomorrow. I think we set the starting time for that at, I believe, 1 p.m. Pacific, which is 4 p.m. Eastern, so same starting time as today. I might be wrong on that, but we'll update that on the website as soon as we get there. Then Friday, of course, we'll be back with Flashback Friday. Me and the Dissident will host the show on Friday. So that's some good stuff coming up. Then we also have Kevin Deanna, a.k.a. Gregory Hood, writes for Ameren, does a great show called Identity Politics. He will be on next Tuesday. So we're booking in a lot of shows, doing more interviews and stuff like that too. So hope you guys enjoy it. If you do enjoy it, please consider signing up for a membership, because of course that's a great way to get access to everything that we do. We just uploaded our latest Western Warrior just today here. We talked more about the Alaric stuff there too, by the way, if you're interested in that. I thought that was an interesting segment in terms of cooperation between loosely affiliated tribes, common interest, necessity as opposed to perfection or moral purity spiraling. It's kind of an interesting segment, so check that out. That's one of the great things you get as a member. We give you something back if you support us, so thanks so much. Of course, thank you to all the super chatters as well. We appreciate you guys. We can't do this without you, so thank you to everyone who supported today. Greatly appreciated. Excuse me. So we'll be back with those things, with a lot more here soon coming up. And again, by the way, if you do want to sign up for a membership, I should mention, it'd be good if I mentioned that maybe, redicemembers.com is the website, but you can sign up at redicetv.locals.com as well, or subscribestar.com/redice. All the latest content is uploaded to Subscribestar and Locals, but if you want the full archives, that's on redicemembers.com. That goes back years and years and years. There's thousands of shows there for you guys. Interviews, many part 2 of the interviews that we do are there for members as well. We do an After Flashback Friday, that's for members. We do Western Warrior, as we said. We also have other exclusive content for you guys there. And if you don't want to pay $10 a month, well, you can sign up for a 2-year one. Then you only pay, I don't know, what is the month-to-month, $6 a month, maybe something like that. You get like 35, almost 40% off. If you sign up for a 2-year one, we have 1 year, 9 months, etc. I saw white powered here as well. Let's make a new religion, bang each other's wives and do some drugs. Oh, is that the pagan? That's the pagan thing. It's funny because I just saw a clip with, what was it? What's his name? Andrew Wilson. He got super pissed off that some femoid from tranny. Was she tranny? Lesbian, I think she was or something. She pointed out that Andrew Wilson has a wife that has 3 baby daddies. He got pissed. It was funny. Speaking of multiple wives there for you. White powdered. All right. So anyway, thank you guys. We appreciate you. We'll be back with more soon. Thank you also, before we let you guys go here, to our executive producers. First out the gates, as always, the wonderful, one and only Albert Arctic Wolf. Thank you so much. We got a William Fox from America First Books as well. We got Angry White Soccer Mom. Thank you for your support. We got Purple Haze, also one of our executive producers. Then we got Glenn. Thank you, Glenn. We appreciate you. Thank you for being with us. We got Red Pill Rundown as well. Thank you for being an executive producer. We also got President Obunga. Thank you for your support. We got Teutonic Werebear. Thank you to you as well. We appreciate you. Then we got Good Luck Lap. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. And then we got Number 1 Jeebs, also one of our executive producers. And last 2 at the gates here, Hungarian Mom. Thank you so much. We also have Santoso. Thank you, Santoso. Appreciate you being an executive producer. Then we also got our producers, Charles Turner Jr., Johansson, Leroy Dumond, Eyes Open, Single Action Army. We have Lord H.P. Lovecraft. We have Trevor. We got Der Schwabe, Shane B. Alcyon, The Booman, Aurelian, Perfect Brute, Greg M., J. Barr, Chris W., and Skarsinski. Thank you guys. Appreciate all of you. You're helping to make this possible. If you want to upgrade to one of those or get one of those right away, redicemembers.com or subscribestar.com/redice. Get a shout out from us here at Red Ice and get a special thanks. All right, guys, we'll be back here with more, obviously, in just about 24 hours or so, a little bit less even. So we'll see you tomorrow. Folk first, as always. We'll see you on the other side. Take care. Now, do make sure that you follow us on our Rumble channel for more Red Ice TV on rumble.com or on X at Red Ice TV. You can, of course, go to redice.tv as well. Tune in to our live streams and shows. Flashback Friday live on Fridays at 5 p.m. Eastern. No-Go Zone Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern. We also do interviews, videos, clips, and Western Warrior is available Tuesdays, exclusive for our supporters and subscribers at redicemembers.com or on our locals, redicetv.locals.com or subscribestar.com/redice. Get a membership, check out everything that we do, and support the show.
New Red Ice merch available now. Folk First t-shirts for adults and for toddlers. Fatigues for men. Our favorite, the Red Ice camper mug or ceramic with black print. High quality leather keychain with solar boat imprint. Our Red Ice hat, one of our best sellers. Pick one up today, or why not? Gray Auslander Rouse t-shirts for both women and men. We also have fridge magnets. Folk First, One Disease, and our black
White Power
men's
fridge
t-shirt
magnets, ladies and
with the
gentlemen.
classic red
Get yours
solar boat.
today. Thanks, guys.
Folk First.
Hey, we got some new Christmas mugs coming out too, by the way. Some Yule-tide mugs. Stay tuned for that. Some good stuff. Thank you,
Lana's
guys.
Llama, proud sponsor
See you tomorrow, boys.
of Red
and girls.
Ice.
Take it easy.